Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing mind.
Move him out of here, Dereck.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on a Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Welcome, everyone, to the 482nd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. Or is it the first edition of the Boxing Professional Hour with Maddie and Steve? Blessed day to you, Steve.
All right, Matty. The sun comes out and everyone fucks off and leaves us, so this could last for 45 minutes. It could end up lasting for 3 hours. Who knows?
Hey, that can only help you in the prediction league because then no one else can get their picks in.
Oh, yeah. How am I doing in the prediction league at the moment, actually? Am I faltering still?
We'll go to that right now because that's a good lead up because neither one of us, no one on the panel obviously got the Pulev Chisora fight. But with Vargas pulling off that split decision victory over Sayo and lifting that WBC belt, that kept you 0 points the last 2 weeks, Steve. You're only 1 point up on Rob right now, who is with me on Vargas on points. And I'm now tied with Andy, only 8 behind you.
Oh, it's getting exciting in the championship rounds now. The lead up towards the end of the year and things are getting exciting. I'm starting to struggle now, starting to feel the heat, the pace.
It's intense. It's really intense. But the good news might be that you don't have to go first next week.
Oh, well, yeah, there's always a blessing.
But anyways, as we alluded to there, a good fight yesterday or this morning for you guys between Ray Vargas and Sayo, with Vargas recovering from a 9th round knockdown and some shaky legs in the 10th to take the last 2 rounds on all 3 judges' scorecards, earning a split decision victory over Sayo, who was inexplicably won 6 of the first 10 rounds on one of the judges' scorecards. But we won't even talk about that, Steve. We won't talk about that. Let's talk about the Ray Vargas who chose to keep distance while holding his ground. Other than a couple of mistakes thrown from too far out, he really put in a good performance to earn his featherweight crown.
Oh, he did, yeah. You've definitely touched a couple of the points that I noted as well. I'm a bit of a PBC fanboy. Showtime just does it for me at the moment. You mentioned Sunday morning there. I get up about 7:30, 8 o'clock, get the fights downloaded, nice cup of tea, 3 evenly matched competitive fights. This is my favourite broadcaster at the moment. We had the discussion last week. I think it was you mentioned it. If Sayo had maybe benefited from the fact that Gary Russell fought depleted last time out. And similar to that fight, Sayo, he started again off nice and fast, nice and furious. But as Ray Vargas got the distance, he got the range nailed down. He was dictating things behind the jab, like you said. His accuracy and his activity were the difference. And I like the body shots too. He was really leaning into those body shots and raking them to the ribs. And you see the round 9 knockdown, you mentioned it there, for Sayo. That was a pivotal round in the fight, but for all the wrong reasons. He landed a peach of a right hand right on the button. Vargas was stumbling around. At first, I thought to myself, did he actually catch him? Vargas was trying to play it off as if he'd fell. The referee was absolutely spot on. It was a lovely shot. It was definitely a knockdown. And there was the chance for Sayo to stick it on him, put the foot down, close out strongly and sweep those final 3 rounds. to keep his title, the WBC title, but he never did. He just let Vargas get back into that rhythm instantly in round 10. Sayo was flailing away with wild left hooks. He was out of range. Only when Vargas got lazy, overextended, leaned in, the footwork went a little bit. That was when Sayo had the success. It was Vargas's fight to lose for me. Sayo looked really basic at times, especially in the last few rounds. His approach didn't reek of someone who had ring smarts. He wasn't ring smart at all. He struggled to create openings and set up traps, little feints, anything like that. It was all pretty straightforward stuff all night.
Yeah, and I had thought that it was highly possible that Mike Sayo wasn't going to be able to find his range in this fight, and I think Steve, as our good buddy Mr. Junior Malone puts here, a good big guy usually beats a guy wee guy. He's probably saying a good wee guy. But I think the mistake that people made in this was seeing, Ray Vargas moving up in weight, seeing Sayo as a puncher. And, obviously the power showed, and I'd say Sayo definitely has the power gap. But the mistake some people made going into this fight was thinking that Vargas was a smaller man, which he clearly isn't.
No, Vargas was absolutely massive. He looked quite drained at the weigh-in as well, and we were having discussions in the Boxing Nutters group all week, and I was starting to waver on my decision. Maybe I've been sleeping on Vargas, looking at the fact that he was boring. He hadn't knocked anybody out since, I think it was 2016, they were saying on the broadcast, like 6 years. And he'd really faltered through his career, had the problems with the broken ankle, and now he's a two-weight world champion all of a sudden. Sayo just couldn't get near him. Even, I think, an interesting point as well was the background narrative was really interesting. You had Freddie Roach in the one corner, Nacho Beristain in the other corner, going head-to-head. Beristain's 82 years old now. It just reminded me of the four-fight Marquez-Pacquiao rivalry. The rivalry is rekindled, Philippines versus Mexico as well, obviously on a much lesser level. But Beristain said something to Vargas in about round 6 or 7 in between rounds. He said, now he feels your power. Now he knows you can punch. And I think that was making Sayo a little bit wary. And people were mentioning about the Philippines thing beforehand. I know it's only hyperbole, and you have guys trying to compare like the likes of Devin Haney to Mayweather, and you're always going to do it to try and get that bit of kudos, that bit of credibility. But there was articles coming up on Google Alerts all week, the new Filipino king following in Pacquiao's footsteps. And I thought to myself, Sayo ain't no Pacquiao, man. I know Pacquiao had to develop and nurture, but you're talking about an 8-weight world champion here, one of the best fighters of his generation, one of the best fighters of all time. And Sayo just didn't have that footwork. He had the buzzing, the shoulders, the head and that, but Pacquiao's a completely different level, and he wasn't able to close that distance down the way Pacquiao did against Margarito. I know it's only early in Sayo's career, but they're just making those comparisons. And the fact that they're Filipinos and Sayo's raised himself out of poverty and everything, absolutely fantastic. He had the wife in the corner. She wasn't enjoying it that much. But I think at the end of the day, even though I picked Sayo in my fast full twin prediction league career, the right man got the victory. I have no dispute of it whatsoever. I think Sayo knew that as well afterwards. You could tell by his post-fight interview. You mentioned about Vargas running a little bit, but he knew as well as I did. Vargas was a deserved winner.
And I'll tell you what, in that first round, I was thinking about those Pacquiao comparisons, like, they might be right, because a couple of times in that first round, and I don't know why he quit doing it, he did that Pacquiao straight in with straight punches, making your opponent go straight back on a line. You saw him do it to Thurman late in his career, but earlier in his career he did it all the time. That's that speed that gave the welterweight spit. So I was thinking, man, maybe he is putting it together. Maybe Freddie is teaching him that the way of doing it. But he did it those couple of times in the first round, and I didn't see him do it again.
Yeah, well, Freddie's a bit of a hired hand these days, but you touched upon something as well I was going to mention there. Sayo was just on the verge of doing the right things. I know it's so easy for us bedwetting virgins to sit here and say this, that, and the other. We're not the guys getting punched in the face all the time. But every now and again, he would go in, feint, take a step back, Vargas would throw the jab, and then he would come back with the little lead left hook, and you would think, he's getting it now. And then he wouldn't do that again for the next 2 rounds. Again, like I go back to, ring smart, ring craft. He just hadn't got that boxing intelligence, which might come with time. You never know. I know he's near 30 and all, but he was on the verge of doing the right things, but he just couldn't execute.
Yeah, it's I think the fight was definitely on the table for him there. It just goes to show, we were split on the fight. We thought it. We actually believe all of us expressed that we thought it would probably end up as a split decision. We were correct on that. The odds makers had it basically a pick'em fight. It went to show this is a mandatory that made sense. And without getting into Vargas's future too much, because I think we know what it is here, because Brandon Figueroa had that 6-round stoppage over Carlos Castro in his foray into 126 pounds with his good connections with the WBC from his time as a title holder. He did really well dropping Castro early after a good combination against the ropes. And even though he was starting slower, but Castro came back, Steve. I think you saw in 4th and 5th rounds, he started to land those right uppercuts. Got a little bit worried for Figueroa in there. But then in the 6th, Figueroa did something smart, and he backed into the ropes. He let Castro work, and then he returned fire. And I don't think the announce crew caught it, but he punctuated it with this really good left hand that basically delayed reaction froze Castro as he landed through one more punch after that. And then Figueroa spun him around, worked him over, got the stoppage. They thought it was early, but the referee had let it go quite a bit longer than might have thought when Castro got dropped earlier in the fight. And I loved the way Figueroa ended that, Steve. I thought that was incredibly clever. He showed him a different look, and he found an opportunity, and he seized it like few boxers around that weight can.
Yeah, I like Figueroa. The more I see him, the more I like of him. He has the pretty boy look. He calls himself like the Heartbreaker or the Heartbreak Kid, but he's a mean monster in the ring, man. He's a tough fucker. It was a really good chief support bout all round, actually. They're both coming off their first losses, and they're both moving up in weight. So you had those interesting dynamics at play. You know what Brandon Figueroa is going to bring to the table, just that relentless pressure, stamina, as I said, physically strong, powerful as well. Fulton managed to find gaps in the armory and exploit that, but not everybody's going to be of the level of Fulton. I feel like Carlos Castro was like kind of the architect of his own downfall. He's always reminded me a little bit of an orthodox Robert Guerrero. I think he actually used to train under Guerrero's father, but he's in the gym with Robert Alcazar now, who used to train Oscar De La Hoya. It was a nice nostalgic feeling seeing Alcazar in the corner. It took me back a little bit. But anyway, Alcazar kept trying to, he was trying to get Castro to box to his strengths, hold the center ring as much as possible, don't get caught on the ropes. And that's exactly what Castro did, as you mentioned, to get stopped. The story of that ending goes back. It starts in round 3. Castro gets knocked down in that round. Things were a little bit weird. I thought at first, is it a push? Castro didn't complain. Fair play to the ref, Mark Nelson. They said he'd been in 800 odd fights. I mean, we've seen this guy for years now. He could have jumped in and ended that fight, but he didn't. A British ref would have definitely 100% stopped the fight at that point. He noticed a lot of Figueroa's blitzes weren't really landing that cleanly. But Castro, he didn't learn from that. He kept languishing on the ropes, which was the worst possible thing to do. Now, I mean, he didn't have the power to keep Figueroa off him for any stretch of time. So he was probably hoping Figueroa would maybe tire out or Nelson wouldn't stop the fight, but he was wrong because in round 6, as you said, he's lying on the ropes again, takes a flurry of unanswered shots. Abner Mares on the commentary wasn't too fussed about the stoppage. At first, neither was I, but the precedent, not the predicament, the precedent had been set for Castro. Stay the hell off those ropes.
Yeah, and it just looked different in that one. He kind of slumped over against the ropes. He was kind of sat down on the middle rope a bit, as the referee said, he thought that the look in Castro's eyes in the 6th compared to the 3rd were totally different. And that's why he stepped in. And I went back and watched the replays, and I could see it too. There was a lot cleaner shots getting in through there. Yeah, Figueroa just impresses me, and it looks like they're, maybe Gary Russell could jump back in there because you never know, but it looks like they're trying to set up Vargas against Figueroa off of this one.
Vargas wasn't having it though, was he? He wanted to fight Santa Cruz, he kept saying.
Yeah, because he knows that Santa Cruz is at the end of his days,
and it's a money fight for all Mexicans as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is, and I think that fight is there for Vargas for the taking. I don't blame him for wanting that fight, but man, that Figueroa Vargas fight, I like that boxer versus brawler fight in that one. I think that has fireworks written all over it. Steve, sign me up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, I'd look forward to that one. Figueroa, as I said, he's definitely impressing me. It was in the first round as well. He came out and he tried to box at range. He stood off. He was moving the jab, southpaw to orthodox. But by the second round, he was just like, fuck this. Let's just do what I do best. Let's start grappling inside. He got onto Castro's chest. But with those little nuances that you mentioned as well, just setting him up for things. So hopefully the Fulton loss, he's learned from that. MB says here in a comment, just hasn't worked out for Carlos Castro. I think he's a lovely boxer to watch. Has great technique. I agree with that. I think the right uppercut was there for him. He landed it whenever he could. The right hand to the body was landing it as well. and he was landing both of those shots. He was winning the boxing match, but he just wasn't going to win the brawl. You can do whatever you want against Figueroa, but unless you're exceptional with the stamina, the punch to keep him off you, it's going to be a hell of a time. Only exceptional fighters will beat Figueroa. Castro's just not in that category, which is it's no shame in that.
And I think he might be a shade chinny too.
Do you think so?
Yeah, I mean, Neri dropped him early in their fight.
Didn't Oscar Escandon have drop him as well and have him in a load of trouble? I think when they fought, I think he might have done.
I think you could be right.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and that that it's kind of the Hassan and Dom thing, right? Like if you only showed 90% of what they do in fights, you think that they're one of the best fighters in the world, but then there's that 10% of the time where they're getting smacked around the ring and spending it on their ass.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I don't know. It was good. It's always good to try to move up in weight too, to see if you can't get a little bit more resistance moving up, not draining down. But it didn't work out for Castro. We'll see where he goes from here. PBC treats these guys well, though, Steve. They give him chances. I bet this isn't the last that we've seen of him. I'm sure he'll give another young prospect or someone a good night's work and maybe earn himself another chance even.
Oh, he will, definitely, yeah. I'm looking at his record, actually. I'm trying to think, what was he not signed with Top Rank at one point, and then they dropped him, and then the PBC picked him up for that Neri fight? I think I'm right in saying that, Let's check his record here. So, no, the Escandon fight was on the your Dennis Ugas undercard against Spence, so that was PBC. Cesar Juarez back in 2020, that was in the bubble. That was on a Bob Arum card, yeah. So there you go. He definitely was. Top Rank bought him so far, and then they dropped him as an undefeated fighter. They had enough of him for some reason. And then he's ended up with the PBC, and he's lost his last two fights and got knocked down in his other one. So the PBC haven't been matching him easy, but at least he's got the fights that he wants, and he's definitely skilled.
Apparently, Bob saw the writing on the wall there, Steve.
Must have done.
Yeah. So, but man, I'll tell you what, featherweight's an exciting division. PBC has a lot of talent down there, and they're not afraid to throw these guys up against one another. Man, Vargas if he's still having trouble, making weight down at 126 there. It'd be interesting to see what they could do moving him up. Who knows? Because I mean, at 5'10" frame, good reach. It's not like he's going to be at a size discrepancy moving up either. So, be curious.
Yeah.
Who I am really curious about moving up after yesterday, Steve, Frank Martin, taking out a very brave, very talented Jackson Marinez in 10 rounds. It was good in the first half. Nice back and forth with Marinez finding that straight right hand from the outside, controlling Martin a little bit. But then second half of the fight, Frank just started giving him hell. Good combinations. He's just naturally athletic. They talked about his past in other sports. He's not a long-time boxer, 10, 12 years, still a good time in the sport. But just incredibly athletic, good natural movements, puts his punches together well. And then that 9th round, he landed a smoking combination at the end of the round, putting down Marinez. Another good combination in the 10th, finished the job. You got to be excited about this guy at lightweight in another division where the PBC has some talent.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited of him. You can log it now. I've said this in past podcasts, but I've already given Frank Martin the Wellings kiss of death. So I think he's a future star. I mean, he's got skill set, speed. You said there, footwork, mobility. He's maybe not the snappiest talker in the world, but those finishing instincts and freshness, it just put paid to a spirited opponent, really spirited Marinez. He was causing issues, just didn't have the energy reserves in the end. Martin was supposed to fight Ricardo Nunes. He's more of a puncher. I think he had visa issues, they were saying. Ronaldo was saying on the broadcast. Nunes fought Gervonta Davis before and got banged out. They might still look to do that fight, actually. Probably get Martin in next against Nunes. That'll give him something else to deal with. But he ended up with Jackson Marinez, who was a good quality late replacement. As late replacements go, this is a guy who's in good physical condition. Should have got the win before against Rolly Romero. Definitely a good boxer. But Martin has those different facets to his game. We've seen him blast out Juno before. He was happy to go the distance against that Ryan Kielczewski. I think he's one of those Boston guys from the Murphys crowd. He was limited, very tough. Martin did exactly what he needed to do and just outboxed him. I expected Marinez here to go on the back foot. I thought he was going to box and move like he did against Rolly, but he stood firm, which actually stood to him. He wanted to stand and trade and show Martin that he was the bigger, stronger guy and he could punch a bit too. Martin's shot selection early on was fantastic, reminded me a little bit of Terence Crawford, that grip between his teeth, throwing the shots. Then Martinez started landing the left hook, which was there for him all night. He started having a bit of success, and I thought, oh, here we go. Martin's going to have some adversity to deal with here. But the speed disparity became apparent as round 6, 7, 8 came along. Because when Martin got off first, he was landing harder combinations before Martinez could get off, and he just couldn't get out the way of them. I like Frank Martin. He's got Dereck James in the corner too. I think he's going places. Lots to do at lightweight at the PBC, so he wants to step up now. He says, I'm ready for all of them, which was a bit vanilla, but I mean, he's not, like I said, he's not a snappy talker. He's not a trash talker, but if he's happy to go in and improve in less than 10 years, I said, from picking up the gloves, he's gone through the amateurs. He beat Virgil Ortiz as an amateur as well, so he's definitely got talent.
Yeah, he's not the Seth Mitchell change sports kind of guy. He's a real athlete, a lot of fluidity, not stiff at all. You can definitely kind of duck in water stuff. You know, like one of the reason I like Sergio Martinez, another late starter where their natural athleticism just transferred so well into what they did in the ring.
Yeah, I'm liking Dereck James. I mentioned him as well there. They had him on the Showtime talking about Trainer of the Year with Charlo, and then Errol Spence. Errol actually, I was a bit worried about Errol. He seemed like he was quite sober at ringside when Jim Gray was interviewing about the Terence Crawford fight. I thought, oh, here we go, he's going to be completely sloshed, slurring his words, but he wasn't. He was quite coherent, and that Dereck James link up, and he's obviously doing big things, but a slight tangent. Errol was saying that the fight between Crawford will definitely happen this year. I know it's boxing, and we hear things all the time, but he seems pretty confident about that. There's no date, no venue, but talks are ongoing. So, yeah, a sober Errol at ringside looking in decent enough nick with a big, massive gold chain around his neck with Dereck James, who's bringing Frank Martin along as well. And like I say, with Charlo unifying, that's an undisputed. That's a good camp at the moment, a buzzing corner Frank's in with.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what fight that I think would be good, Steve. He's going to be on the Andy Ruiz undercard coming up in September. But I really like the Isaac Cruz fight for Frank Martin. I think that's a very interesting fight, and I would like to see that.
Yeah, that would be a great fight because Isak brings the pressure and just is relentless, never stops. He'd be throwing punches from all angles. And if Frank can find those shots in between and maybe hurt him, that would be interesting. Who's Cruz fighting again now? We were looking at this the other day, weren't we?
I can't remember who he was fighting. It wasn't a name that popped at me. I remember that.
Eduardo Ramirez. It's Eduardo Ramirez. That's that guy who beat Mariaga and lost to Lee Selby a few years ago. So he should hopefully get past him. I don't think Ramirez, if he stops Ramirez, that'll be a nice little statement. But yeah, he'll bring something different.
The tough thing with the guy like Isaac Cruz is and I don't know the guy who's fighting. I don't know his dimensions, but at his height and reach, you know, any guy whose feet are working right on the right night and is using his jab can potentially get a decision over on him.
And at the moment, it's hard to know. It's hard to pigeonhole Cruz because he's gone through strange iterations in his career. He really broke onto my radar when he beat that Diego Magdaleno. He knocked him out on one of the pay-per-view undercards. Can't remember what it was, but he absolutely blasted him. And then they put him on Showtime, one of the chief supports, and he fought this Argentine guy, Romero, who absolutely ran like a thief for 12 rounds. And Cruz was hitting him with low blows. He was doing everything to try and get him out there. Couldn't do it. And he showed like he was a little bit flat-footed at times. And then he wasn't able to stop Francisco Vargas. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe he's found his level. He's a little bit limited. Then he come in against Javonta and his stock just went up exponentially because he gave him such a tough fight. But like I said before, they were even talking about the rematch. And then the last fight, they kind of matched him smartly. Yuriorkis Gamboa, still a name, can still dig a bit, has the skills, but can't really execute anymore. The footwork's gone, and Cruz just obviously blasted him out there, knocked him down multiple times. So Ramirez is a guy on the way up. He's had quite a few wins. I don't think he's lost in about 4 or 5 years. So hopefully they've match-maked him again nicely, Cruz, to get another. If he was to stop Ramirez, it'd be a decent statement. So the PBC are looking at him as more of a gimmick or more of an opponent and maybe looking to build Cruz a little bit. So down the line, him against Martin, yes, sign me up. I'd love that.
Big A says the boxing asylum, good stuff. I've got family all over NI, so don't fuck with me, Steve.
Big A was asking me because someone said that I got a Ramrod Belfast jab, and Big A says, "Oh, are you from Belfast?" I'm not from Belfast. I'm from Wolverhampton, but I've lived in Belfast for 16 years, 17 years, something like that. So That's where that comes in. And to whoever was messaging in the chat as well, saying, "Oh, the Asylum needs to mix it up," I can categorically tell you that the Asylum will never be mixing it up because the format is nailed down now, and it suits me on a Sunday evening. So until episode 1000, Matty, when I retire, I said I'd never go past 1000. The format will be as stale and as boring as ever. So there you go to it.
So you won't go past 1,000. So we got another.
That's my limit.
We got another decade, don't we? Right about
Yeah,
there. That's
exactly.
520 episodes.
Another decade to listen or not enjoy if you want on a Sunday evening every 8 o'clock.
You know, Steve, if we're 50 years old and still doing this every Sunday, maybe Eddie's right, and we really do need to get a life.
Maybe we'll have got a shag by then or something in the basement. You never know.
Never know. Never know. Start playing golf a little bit more. I don't know. Haven't fished at all this year. You know, there's other things in life, isn't there?
Well, I don't know, maybe.
Those require going outdoors, and there's people outside, and I'm not too fond of those things.
Exactly. Here, Matty, I was going to mention a couple of fights on the undercard. Actually, I didn't see them, but I think they're worth noting.
Sure.
Michel Banquez, he actually beat Prince Patel a few years ago in Jeddah, but he lost to Ramon Cardenas. And Rashidi Ellis, he's on the way up. He's a decent prospect. He was supposed to fight Alberto Parameta, I think, which was originally supposed to be part of the telecast. Then they dropped it down to the YouTube portion. Parameta ended up pulling out, and Rashidi Ellis went in a real short notice guy. Jose Marufo, 13-10-2, knocked him out in a round. He's decent, Rashidi, 24-0, 15 knockouts, beat Alexis Rocha in his last fight, but that was some 18 months ago, so they really need to put the pedal down with him and get in some fights, because I think he could be a problem for a few people at whatever weight he's at, welter, super lightweight, maybe. Yeah, welterweight, I think he is, yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking on what they're able to do with that card, the show last week, we only knew of Vargas against Sayo. And then Saturday we tune in and we get these 3 fights. Look what the PBC puts together in like a week. What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying. Frank was supposed to fight Nunes originally, and then they got Martinez. I know he got banged out by Comey, but Comey's a puncher, and he had arguably beaten Romero. So to get someone like him in at short notice, who'd obviously been in the gym clearly, but that's good going, really.
Yeah. Al does it again.
Praise be to Al. Tom Brown as well. Tom Brown's all over this. He seems to be doing a bit of matchmaking, and he's the proxy promoter for the PBC. I mean, if people want to slag the PBC, that's fair enough, but they're doing the job for me as far as I'm concerned.
You know, I think the problem with people who like still slag on the PBC is because they're probably ripping on them, 12, 15 years ago as Al Heyman got going and kept it going. And they're just so set in their belief that they're not willing to change it, despite the fact that it seems like the model that Heyman had been developing for that long has really taken form and is turning an exceptional product.
Yeah, at the beginning, there were quite a few things that the PBC were putting forward, and people were like, I'm not sure about this. They got rid of the fancy ring walks, and they just went to the direct Mike Tyson style. And then there was talk they were going to pretty much turn it into its own little league. You were only going to have PBC titles, and they weren't going to be fighting for all the other titles, but that hasn't happened. Heyman's disappeared more off into the scenes. I was watching a fight recently, actually. Who was it now? And Uncle Al was at ringside. He used to turn up. I know he was at Vernon Forest against Shane Mosley because I showed the video of him jumping in the ring.
Wasn't Vernon his first fighter?
Vernon was his first ever fighter after you moved from the R&B music scene into the boxing scene. Vernon Forest was his first ever fighter, and then he signed up with HBO. I think it was a Jermaine Taylor. It might have been Jermaine Taylor, Kelly Pavlik, Uncle Al, I'm pretty sure, was front and center sitting at ringside if you go back and watch that fight. I mean, if ever there's an excuse to go back and watch that fight, you don't need it because Taylor against Pavlik 1 is one of my all-time favorite contests, man. It's an absolute cracker. But I'm pretty sure Al was more visible back then, Matty, and he's at ringside.
Yeah, he just kind of hangs back. And I think that when you're obviously not interested in being the face of something and having a public profile, you're obviously focused on something else, dare I say, and it's probably the business.
Yeah, making the fights. Yeah, let the other people come to the forefront and do the talking, and he'll just make the fights.
Yeah, and I think you'll end up with better stuff than the undercard that we had over on DAZN. Who is that mixed race Irish kid that wants to fight Spike O'Sullivan now?
Oh, on DAZN last night?
Yeah.
Kevin Ajako.
Yeah.
Is that what he said? I saw the fight.
Yeah, that's what they want. They want to try to get Spike O'Sullivan in Belfast. I think in Belfast they said.
Yeah, well, that's makeable, I suppose. Yeah, Spike's fought there before. He's from Cork. He put a pretty decent showing in last time against Landy Lara.
Did he?
For as long as it lasted. Well, I mean, he did in that he didn't get knocked out in like the first 2 rounds, and he stuck it and took his licks. He got knocked down. He got back up again. He kept on plugging away. You can't knock old Spike.
Don't you think his aspirations should be higher than Spike O'Sullivan?
Well, I mean, I suppose he's looking at a guy who's fought for world titles. He's fought at a decent level. He's been on high-profile Showtime, HBO TV in America, and he's a known name and a known quantity to some degree. For a young fighter like a Jarko, getting someone on the record like that, I could see it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it just seems a foregone conclusion. It seems like they're kind of picking on the fantastic mustached one a little bit. But I digress.
Yeah. Here, talking of digressions, actually, Matty, I'll just throw something in very quickly. I had it in my notes here. Mauro Ranallo on Showtime when he was bringing in Steve Farhood to do the scoring. I think it was about round 5 or 6 of one of the fights. I think it was the Martinez fight. He said, happy birthday to happy anniversary, wedding anniversary to Steve and Maris Farhood. How'd you have it scored, Steve, after 34 years of marriage? So that was a little quip from Mauro there. I thought that was quite good, actually.
They got a good team over there. I like them. It'll be interesting to see Merez coming back to the ring too.
Is he actually coming back?
Yeah, I think he's also on the Ruiz undercard.
I thought that too, but I thought that was a joke because of the old eye problems.
You hope it is. Yeah, I mean, he's been out of the ring for what, 4 or 5 years?
I don't know, man.
A long time.
What's it? I wonder what weight he's going to come back at now. He looks like Amir Khan.
I think it said featherweight.
Well, he'll do well to get down to that. He's not the worst in the world commentator, Mares. You know, he makes a few mistakes. I think he takes a long time over his delivery sometimes, but then he's a fighter, not a talker. I think Al Bernstein's doting a little bit as well. Sometimes he stumbles over his words, but I mean, you know, so do we sometimes. You can't really hold that against them.
Yeah, I couldn't think of self-awareness yesterday. We all have our moments.
Absolutely.
It's I think I like Merez enough as a commentator, but I think what bugged me was a bit with him as a fighter, and not necessarily. I mean, because he always gave a good account of himself. He was rarely in bad fights, but I just thought that he got the better end of a fair amount of decisions and stuff that he shouldn't have gotten. And that first Agbeko fight was one of the biggest fucking jokes I've ever seen. That round that Agbeko was clearly winning, and then he got low blowed, and the ref called it a knockdown instead of a low blow. So you got a 3-point swing there. I mean, that was an awful one. Did I think Moreno beat him? Maybe. Do I remember that? I don't know.
Which Anselmo Moreno?
Yeah.
I don't know about that now. I remember the Agbeko fight you're referring to. I think it was Russell Mora. Hey to Dave always refers to that. Yeah, that was an absolute joke. That was. He absolutely punched the balls off Agbeko that night. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was pathetic. And Agbeko was a fun little fighter too. I enjoyed the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, Agbeko was decent. That was the Showtime bantamweight tournament, wasn't it? That they put together, I think.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, I think Agbeko fought Darchinyan, maybe.
Yeah, was Yanni Perez involved in?
And Yanni Perez fought Merez, I think.
There you go.
And they had a good scrap. I think that was a good fight.
Yeah, Merez was a good fight. Was it Johnny Gonzalez knocked out Merez at some point?
Yes, he did.
He did. And then Gary Russell knocked out Johnny Gonzalez for the title. Yeah, we're going back in the years now.
God, I love Johnny G though, man. That guy had one hell of a punch. And
he was a good fighter.
Fought everywhere. He fought everyone. I mean, I think he fought the title fights in like a half a dozen different countries.
Yeah, he knocked out Hazumi Hasegawa out in Japan for the WBC bantamweight title. I think it was in about 2008, something like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's one of them guys that I think kind of gets overlooked a little bit, because you think about that era of featherweights, and he was kind of like at the tail end of the Morales, Barrera, Pacquiao era, Marquez era, so he didn't he wasn't, that guy, that class of fighter. And then those guys left the division. I think a little bit of the glamour left it. So, just the casuals weren't seeing Johnny Gonzalez. I mean, he was just knocking people the fuck out. I mean, that guy had absolute fucking tanks in his hands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But anyways, we were hinting on the DAZN card.
Yes, sorry, I took you off on a little side street there.
No. There's two of us, Steve. We got to do something here. Dereck Chisora getting a split decision victory over Kubrat Pulev in a very sloppy fight. One where I thought that the uppercut might be a story, and it looked like early Pulev did find it, really rattling Chisora in the 7th. But Del Boy, sucking wind, just kept coming up with these big punches and these random combinations off the ropes in the late rounds, snaking them away from Pulev. I wasn't scoring it really hard, Steve. I thought that a round either way might be fine. I thought it might be a draw, but fucking Del Boy goes on. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to what the filth in the chat think about it. Let us know how you scored it, because I thought that 116, 112 to Pulev was probably about right. That said, there were plenty of arguable rounds that could have gone either way. It was a little bit scrappy. As soon as you got to the final bell, though, with it being so close and competitive, I knew they were going to give it to Dereck Chisora. You know, the home fighter, the home crowd chanting his name. Everybody's bought and invested into this story. Even his ring walk felt like it was a little bit of a wander into retirement, the way he took ages and he had his family at ringside. But in quite a few of the rounds, I mean, especially around the middle of the fight, Pulev was on the front foot for me. He was pushing Chisora back, throwing the bulk of the shots. Then Chisora would respond with these big swings to the head, to the body, the right hand, which you could conceivably score as harder, more effective blows. That's obviously what the judges were looking for. That's obviously what they liked. Pulev's jab was a letdown for me. Whenever he threw it with conviction, a hard ramrod jab, as Alex Bellotti says in the chat there, it was a solid weapon, kept Chisora at bay. But whenever he started pouring with it, it was just too slow. The opportunity was there.
Sucked.
The opportunity was for Chisora then, Matty, to throw that counter over the top because the jab was just so slow. And I thought Chisora actually, can't believe I'm saying this, fought quite a pretty smart fight because he made himself a small target. He made it difficult for Pulev to land that clean uppercut you were mentioning and any body shots on him. And Pulev looked a little bit clueless for a guy who was so experienced. And Don Charles, you mentioned him last week. We weren't sure what happened to him. He was in the corner.
Wasn't that amazing? That was like the greatest thing ever to see Don and Dereck back together again. Like that was beautiful for me.
It was. Funnily enough, someone had said to me during the week, I don't know whether it was on Twitter or it was in the Nutters group again, but they said, oh, Derek's back with Don again, you know, because we'd mentioned it on the pod. And Don had clearly got the strategy right. He knows Dereck. He knew he had to mentally coach him as well through the fight. It wasn't just the strategy. He was checking in on him. He was coaching him through every minute. How are you, Dereck? How are you feeling? Working on his well-being as much as anything to keep him motivated. And as of Pulev, in the corner, I think it was Ibn Carson, you call the trainer, there wasn't much organisation in that corner. Carson was struggling to get his message across. Tervel Pulev, the unesteemed brother of Kubrat, was there shouting away, interrupting. Carson should have told him to shut the fuck up because I think there was a bit of disarray in that corner. But then again, Pulev's an experienced guy. He's 41. I'm surprised he even maintained the pace. They need to keep an eye on that piss test because his stamina actually held up pretty well. Didn't really gas or fatigue. His facial features have barely changed in all of his 10 years of boxing. The guy looks completely the same as he did when I first saw him back in the European title days. I said before it would be a messy, like kind of scrappy affair, but I'll be honest, it was actually more intriguing and a little bit more exciting than I anticipated. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't edge of the seat stuff, but I was engaged for the full 12 rounds, and I can't always say that on a Saturday night.
Yeah, it was a weird fight, man. It was a weird fight. When Dereck came out to Always on My Mind, that was really funky. Who was that was singing that? Was that Tom Jones or?
I'm not sure.
I couldn't make it out. That
didn't sound like Elvis, but I don't know.
No, that might have been Elvis. No, because I'm trying to think. Because that song was a Willie Nelson song, but it's one of the most covered songs.
Well, Elvis
in
made
modern
it famous,
music.
didn't he? Elvis is the main version, I think.
But Pet Shop Boys, freaking covered that one too. You know, that was it was a funky entrance from Del Boy. I love that he did the bandana match in his attire. You know, he's a character, man, and that's the thing that's tough about it is for all of his losses and the fact that we worry about him, it's hard not to tune in because it's hard not to love Dereck Chisora because there is no place for the Dereck Chisoras of the world other than boxing.
Yeah, well, I don't know what he's going to do in about 10 years' time. I actually worry about the likes of Dereck Chisora because that's when it catches up on you. I'm looking in the chat here to see what people thought. Bellotti says Pulev is shocking. Andrew Thickett says I scored it a draw purely because I want to see a trilogy fight. I said that last week. Trilogy fight, maybe one round either way. Mark Stanton didn't think that the overhand right was even landing. MB, yeah, fair play to them. They put on a decent fight. It actually was. It wasn't too bad. It was fun enough. But they're talking about Wilder fighting Chisora now. I don't know whether people want a body on the record or not, but this myth about Wilder, oh, he's such a terrible boxer. Chisora's a big puncher. If he catches him, he's going to go. There's different levels of longevity at the moment. If Wilder catches you with that right hand, say that, I think Pulev caught Chisora with a right hand or a right uppercut in the 8th, and he was wobbling around all over the place. Wilder ain't going to stand off like a 40-year-old man and let that go. He's going to be straight on him, looking to put him on the slab. That's a dangerous fight for me. Chisora, well, I think Chisora might even take the same kind of beating, but it might end quicker. That Danny Williams took to Vitaly Klitschko. I think that's going to be a heavy, heavy brain cell batterer. And Chisora's getting into that Danny Williams territory. Obviously not the current Danny Williams because he's been going on about 12 years too long. But I do worry about Chisora and his long-term longevity and that. But one thing I also wanted to mention about last night, which is the elephant in the room, the commentary and DAZN's treatment of the fight. No doubt the people in the chat will have something to say about this. I'm not trying to be an old boomer and an old stick in the mud and a boring old shite, but that commentary setup is absolutely terrible. I quite like Barry Jones. I think he's a good guy. He knows his boxing. He doesn't really lean too much either way. He was bringing a bit of balance, not too much hyperbole. I'm not a fan of Costello. I know that's an unpopular opinion in the hardcore fraternity, but I just can't be having him at all, man. I prefer Bean. And then you've got David Hay there. Everything for Hay was slanted to Chisora, but you have to remember, Hay has vested interests. Not only did he used to manage or advise Chisora, but he beat Dereck. So he's on his record. Everything Chisora accomplishes now, in turn, enhances Hay's standing. Of course, he's going to be bombing for Chisora. And then you've got Tony Bellew audibly screaming instructions to Chisora from ringside. You can hear him throughout the whole fight, right? Which is fine. That's not a problem if that's what you want to do, Tone. He's serving as the official DAZN scorer. It's just remarkable, man. The guy who's scoring the fight for DAZN is going, hit him with the right hand, Dereck, getting in on site. He's giving him coaching throughout the fight or fucking scoring the fight for DAZN officially, man. What kind of analysis is that? DAZN is just such a bizarre entity. I really don't think it's long for this world. At least they're all having a good time. At least they're all making money until it folds. But I mean, come on, man. Where's the integrity?
Yeah, and I think they need to take a page out of the book of Roy Jones and Andre Ward, who, when they have some involvement being training, managing fighters and things like that, they don't have an involvement either during that fight or during that telecast, right? They respect that there's that line, and both sides respect the fact that they have the right to earn their money how they so choose. But it gets a little blurry as you were saying, and that's, and I guess you could definitely say it runs some unethical boundaries, couldn't you?
Oh, well, it definitely does. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, who cares? It's none of our business and all that. But Tony got his hands wrapped before for doing this at Sky. And he says, well, they're my mates. Don't expect me for not shouting for my mates. Well, that's fine. But don't work for the broadcaster that night. He's scoring. He's putting a scorecard in the bottom corner that people are watching and going along with. They're getting a view of the fight based upon a quote-unquote expert telling them how it's going. This same guy's in the corner shouting to one of the fighters throughout the fight. I mean, if anyone can't see anything wrong with that, it just absolutely baffles me. He's everybody's mate, and he's Chisora's mate, he's Joshua's mate. I don't know how much of a friend they are to him, but he just seems to love everybody, and that's fine. You know what, Tone? Go to the fights, enjoy yourself, shout all you want, support your mates. No problem with that whatsoever. But don't be commenting on the fight and giving us a fucking scorecard throughout the 12 rounds at the same time. It's just daft. Sorry, Matt, have I bored you to death?
Oh, sorry. I accidentally muted myself, and I thought I unmuted myself. Rough times. Andrew Thicket, you already touched on this, but we can go just a little bit more. Chisora said he wanted Wilder next. Thoughts on that one? Here's the thing about, like, Wilder is the best puncher of the last, 30 years.
Mm.
Try to find a good argument against that one. And the only guy who's been able to topple him is probably the best heavyweight of the last 20. I mean, Chisora against Wilder just sounds nuts. And people, because because Fury stopped Wilder twice, they think he's chinny or something like that. Like, no. Although I will say that Chisora's wide punches could find that soft spot that Deontay Wilder seems to have. But you got to think about the punches that guy's eaten over the years without going down. Like he went down once early in his career and people harped on that. Shit happens. But I mean, he stood up to bombs from Ortiz and everyone else over the years. The guy, he's not even a faded Deontay Wilder is not an easy out for anybody, especially this version of Dereck Chisora.
Yeah, it seems like such a strange fight to chase. Shout out to Obi, one of our listeners. He's a regular listener and he was messaging me earlier. He actually came up with a good one. He said that Chisora should chase Daniel Dubois. That'd be a kind of an all-British affair. Dubois as a kind of a version of a world title. And I thought, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I hadn't really considered that. But I don't know why they're so obsessed to put him in with Wilder, of all people. I mean, I know he's already been in with Fury a couple of times. And obviously Wilder's been in with Fury as well. But people are thinking that Chisora's still going to punch hard enough. Like Wilder has this absolute glass chin. The guy's just ferocious and relentless and coming forward on Chisora, and he punches like just an absolute different level. Once he catches Chisora, it's just going to be, I don't think it's even going to be lights out there. You could just see Dereck tottering around, trying his best to soak it up. And Wilder's a different beast, man. It seems like a bit of a sick fight to me. I mean, if they make it, I'll definitely watch it and all, but why Wilder? I mean, what do they see in Wilder, really? Everyone thinks he's so bad. I've never understood this narrative that he's going to lose to someone like Chisora. I just don't see it happening.
There's very few people I could see really even giving Deontay Wilder a fight in the heavyweight division. Like, I feel like him, Usyk, and Fury are such a clear, 1, 2, 3, however you want to put 2 and 3, that it's not even funny. I think that's just where the division is at. There's those guys, and then there's everybody else. And any of those guys against each other makes an interesting fight. Them against anyone else, it'd have to be a puncher's chance. And I don't know, maybe Sanchez with his skill could pull it off. Ruiz, I think, would just get the shit kicked out of him. Luis Ortiz, we've already seen him against Deontay Wilder. I actually think Ortiz against Usyk is a vaguely interesting fight, although it never happened, right? Like, what's the point? And Ortiz is starting to look old. He really is looking old. It's just, yeah, there's just such a depth of talent, and I think we're really blessed. Usyk aside, he still needs to kind of build himself up, but we were really blessed to see those fights with Fury and Wilder, and to see such incredibly talented fighters in this era. One that just moves and puts punches together like a dream, and then with the other one with the hammer of God in his fist. Definitely an interesting era of boxing, and it definitely. Those two definitely revived boxing to some degree, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, they definitely did. Yeah, I've made my thoughts known on this, so I'll not go too deep into it before. But the fact that Wilder lost to Fury twice and everyone's just kind of disregarding him and putting him back down in the pack and all. But I think his standing definitely stayed on a level, but it was even enhanced by he's just absolutely so driven and believing in his power that anyone other than Fury would struggle against him or get knocked the hell out. Jack WD threw one in there. He says Dillian White rematch with Chisora. That's something that's always been on the table. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to make that third fight between them two, especially after White's fight with Fury. Kieran McGuinness there, Matty says if Chisora fought Wilder, it would end like Bermain Stiverne 2. I think Chisora might. Yeah, well, yeah. I think Chisora might actually take a beating for 3 or 4 rounds. And we had another one here. What we see here? Oh, yeah, Chris Butler, sorry. He said Dave Caldwell said he couldn't believe the punch Wilder took from Hay in sparring. That's my thoughts exactly. This narrative that Wilder has a papier-mâché chin. I'm not buying it, man. I know he was like wobbled by some fat guy in his 15th fight in some bar in Kansas or whatever it was, but that's old news now, man. I'm not sure about Wilder's toughness. I don't think you can call it into question after those 3 Fury fights, really.
Yeah, he was incredible. And it just, people just looked at any reason that they could to dismiss him, like when he knocked Audley Harrison out of there and he was winging like a windmill and shit like that. Like, so they take all the negative from that. Like, not the fact that like he just grazed the guy and he fucking completely discombobulated him. Nobody wanted to talk about that. They wanted to talk about how weird his finish was. Okay. That was, God, him against Audley Harrison, I think that was, about somewhere around his 20th fight, give or take. So that would have been somewhere around his 50th recorded fight ever, amateur and professional.
Mhm.
Okay, big deal.
Yeah.
That's the fun thing of the ones who are truly good, because people have to reach so hard and they harp so hard on anything they find wrong with them. Like they used to do with Floyd. They just find that one thing they could say, oh, so and so hurt him. Yeah, so what? So and so fucking hurt him. They landed 3 clean punches on him the whole fight and he knocked him out in 9. What's your fucking point?
Yeah, people still going about Lennox Lewis to this day. Oh, he had a bad chin, blah, blah, blah. And they bring up things like the Shannon Briggs fight, when he was knocked off balance in the second round and all this type of stuff. But as I always say with everything, look at people over an extended period of time. Usually their entire career is the best measuring stick. But, you can't just say one thing based off a particular fight. And I think Wilder has shown enough in the Fury fight and beyond that he has toughness, longevity, and an absolute punch that would knock out a mule. So I think he has the potential to wipe out anybody in the heavyweight division.
Well, harping on against Lennox Lewis, I mean, that's ridiculous. Like Lennox Lewis, man, I think we had it real early in the podcast. I think I had a discussion about it, about whether Lennox Lewis was a top 10 all-time great heavyweight. And it becomes really hard to dispute when you dig through his records, because those 90s heavyweights, man, I mean, that was a fucking murderer's row.
Yeah. And he fought pretty much all of them, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely. Nothing to add.
Yeah, the only one he didn't fight was Bo, right? And that's because Bo tossed his title in the trash.
Yeah, that was Rock Newman's fault. I've gone in on that one in the past. Yeah, I blame Rock Newman for that. But exactly, it wasn't Lennox's fault. Yeah, he fought everybody. Eventually, I know Tyson was, 10 years at least past its sell-by date, but they eventually sorted that out. Yeah, it was only really Bo.
Yeah. I've actually heard rumors that they're trying to do a Lennox Lewis Mike Tyson fight again. Like they're actively working towards it.
Oh God! I thought you were gonna say Riddick Bowe, man. That would have been even worse.
No, Jesus Christ, man!
If he can just stick to breathing and walking in a straight line, that'll be all I think he needs to do for the rest of his life. Old Bowe.
I think the only fight against a name that can be sold with Riddick Bowe at his state would be James Toney.
Yeah, exactly.
And, like, can you imagine like the subtitles that would be needed for like the press conferences and all that?
Talking.
Hashtag Bowe.
Oh, dear.
But Andrew Thickett said Wilder's strength of his record will be more respected once he's retired. One of the most fascinating careers in any sport, in my opinion. I think it is too. I think there's just something cool about the career of Deontay Wilder. He's just again, kind of like Dereck Chisora. These people only exist in boxing, so you should cherish him.
He's exciting. He's exciting too. I know I'm keeping this going. I'm sorry, but he's exciting, isn't he, Wilder? I mean, look at the 2 Luis Ortiz fights. I mean, most of the time, even when he was beating the shit out of the guys like De Hapas and the Spilker fight, he looked like shit for 8 rounds. And then he hit Spilker so hard, he pissed himself. I mean, he brings knockouts, man. It's like Gervonta Davis. I always mention him as well. At least they get rid of people excitingly. Look at the Brazil knockout, man. Brazil's face was just rattling on the slow-mo replay. But, what can you... Wilder, man, he's just exciting. Even all the bullshit with the suit and the bleeding ears and the drama. He's brought an exciting career. He hasn't danced around the ring for his 40-odd fights. There's always been an element of interest, whether he's been knocking people cold or getting flattened himself.
And he's got balls, man. Like you have to physically make him unable to move for him to stop. The only thing that saved him in that second fight was the referee, because he would have still kept fucking going. He was pissed. Why'd you throw the towel in? Fuck you. I was on my feet. What the fuck? Anyways, fight that wasn't stopped too soon yesterday. Israel Madrimov would have been getting a stoppage over Mikhail Soro if had not been for a wicked headbutt causing a vile cut on Soro. No good reason to let that fight continue. I accept the no contest on that one, Steve, but I do not want a rematch. I saw enough in 2 rounds. Madrimov was kicking the shit out of Soro. That headbutt saved Michael Soro from some serious damage.
Yeah, I agree. I think we know the direction it was going. There was a bit of controversy after the first fight and they wanted to sort things out. Neither man will want to go back in again against each other Madrimov, I want to go off into a different direction. I think he showed even in those couple of rounds he was the better man. We were on the call last night with the Boxing Nutters Messenger group. I know you jumped in as well. So I didn't watch it in real time, but I rewound it afterwards after the recording and saw the headbutt was a nasty one. It was about 5 seconds into the third round. There was blood pissing everywhere. The doctor, she wasn't messing about, man. She was straight in there. No, as she was calling the fight off, trying to sort it out. It seemed to heal itself pretty quickly, and Soro maybe got away with getting a bit of a beating there, but yeah, it was an absolutely paper thin card, and it was a shame. You can't really blame Eddie. He put on a decent fighter there. Soro's been in at a decent level. Madrinov's on the way up as well. It was a good fringe level, competitive fight, one of the better fights on the card, and can't really blame Eddie for that. Yeah, Soro got away with one, and they'll move in different directions now. I think we all know Madrimov the better guy.
Yeah, and I definitely curious to see where he goes from here. What could be on the horizon for him next, Steve?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually.
I mean, if you're fighting Soro again, what were your options?
Yeah, he's had some funny fights, hasn't he? I remember he fought that Eric Walker. Me and Andy spoke about that before in Tulsa. That was part of the DAZN cards. He knocked Walker out, and the referee threw Walker back in again, and they carried on to 12 rounds. He then fought Emily Colombo. He's one of these guys, Colombo on the case, the general. One of these unbeaten Africans beat him as well. And then Soro was a nice step up because, as I said, Soro had fought Castano and a few other people of repute. So I'm just trying to see where he's on Boxrec now. So he's top 10. He's definitely closing in. Jamel Charlo, I mean, do we think he's going to drop the belts? Once he drops the belts, are the likes of Madrimov and these other guys going to maybe pick one up if he does? Or do you think Charlo's going to defend against somebody? Or
Steve, I think he'll probably take some sort of a mandatory in the interim here. But I think what he's really waiting for, and what's secretly in his mind right now, is he's wanting to see Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence fight, and he wants Terrence Crawford to win because you know that he's not going to be fighting Errol Spence because they have the same trainer. So how is he going to make that money? Yeah. He needs Terrence Crawford to beat Errol Spence. And I think that it's just a waiting game for Charlo at this point in time.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what he wants.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. He's definitely going to move up at some point and then take that on, and then the belts will become split. In the meantime, he has got people snapping at his heels. Madrimov, the WBA, Madrimov's quite high with now. He's beaten Soro, so he'll be going into manager position soon. Fundora with the WBC after he beat Lubin. You've got, I think the next one they're talking about is the IBF, this Bakram Murtazaliev. I know that they're talking about that fight, but Charlo doesn't want to entertain that. And then he's got Tim Zhu snapping at his heels in the WBO as well. So there's some good fights on the horizon for him, but I don't think he'll fancy any of them. And he's paid his dues, Charlo. I don't think he necessarily has to. But as you say, once he throws them belts down and they splinter up, the likes of Madrimov, Siu, Fundora, they're all going to be chasing around for the scraps. So we could see Madrimov Soro 3 maybe for a WBA title or something, but hopefully not. Yeah.
Holy God.
I know. You never know. But yeah, Charlo will move up as soon as, Crawford Spence fight. I agree with that.
Yeah, we'll see what it's interesting when a guy holds all the belts and I think that's where things kind of get a little messed up is they just start doing these interim belts or, regular champions and all that shit just so that they can make these fights and get sanctioning fees instead of waiting on a 4-belt holder to fight twice a year. It's just not profitable, Steve. It's not profitable.
No. Chris Butler says here Charlo will fight Tim Zhu next. There you go. So if it's you push forward before Murtazaliev, I'd be happy to see that. I'd like to see Zhu against Charlo. I think that would be an interesting fight.
I'm half interested in it and half don't want it to happen because the reason is being that I don't think Zhu quite has the seasoning. But I think he does have the style, if he polished it, to give Charlo a lot of problems. But I'm afraid that somebody who is as skillful and is so close to his prime as Charlo is right now could take this unpolished version of Zhu and just beat the crap out of him and just like take away his soul,
Oh, something that could affect, exactly. Something that could affect him going forward and maybe his later career prospects and stuff. But that's a good point. But I don't know. I suppose if Sue's in position and he's willing to take the fight, then, go ahead and do it. I mean, yeah. But yeah, Charlo definitely beat him, I think.
Let's see here. Josh Ford says it's too early for Zhu, bit like Groves when he fought Froch.
Yeah, it's definitely too early for Zhu. Yeah, Charlo will beat him, but he could, if he gives him a few problems for the first 7 or 8 rounds, which I think he will do. And he's relentless. He doesn't give up. He showed against Gosha, who's obviously a different level to Charlo, but not stylistically dissimilar, that he'll be open to the right hand, but he's going to keep coming and keep on pulling the pressure on Charlo. And if Charlo's not 100%, it could get very interesting very quickly. So I think Zhu will give him a good fight, but I'll be very surprised if he beats him.
If I'm Tim Zhu, I'm gonna try to move in behind a high guard, get Charlo against the ropes, and just go for the body.
Yeah.
And if in the middle of the ring, if you get a chance for a counter, I'm gonna go to the body for the first 7 or 8 rounds and just throw those rounds out, thinking that you cannot win a decision against Charlo.
It's got to be, yeah.
I'm going to take his wheels and I'm going to take him out late. My opportunity is going to come somewhere after the 8th round. That's how I play that fight entirely. Nothing else.
It's got to be activity for Zhu. You can't stand off and let Charlo fight at his pace. I know Castaño didn't do that, but you've got to keep him working, body, non-stop activity. Don't let him rest because his gas tank will deplete. It's funny, Sad Ken actually mentioning that there, Matty, could get juded. Costa Zhu versus Zab Judah popped up on my YouTube recently, and I thought, oh, go on then. Why not? And I flicked it on just to watch it again. I'd forgotten how much Costa actually took a bit of a shellacking in that first round, Zhu was not beating the shit out of him, but the speed and power disparity was right there. And then, of course, as soon as Costa caught him in the second round, Judah did the chicken dance, Jay Nady jumped in, the rest was history. But that was my era. That was right at the beginning of when I was becoming a hardcore. So I'm glad to see that mentioned, man. Costa Zhu. I followed his later career right through and, yeah, popped up on YouTube and I enjoyed rewatching it after all that time.
When I really started getting back into boxing, my first real memory of Zab Judah is the fight against Miguel Cotto and him getting low blowed and him saying to the ref, "It's like he hit me in the dick." that's one of my first memories of Zab Judah is on the floor telling the ref, "I got hit in the dick."
Well, a story I've told before, and I'll tell it again because I am quite repetitive. Whenever DeMarcus Corley fought Paul McCluskey in Belfast, that night, Cotto was fighting Floyd Mayweather, and we were interviewing Corley after the fight because he'd upset McCluskey and beaten him. And I said, "Hey, what do you think about the fight tonight? Mayweather against Cotto. You fought both of them." And he says, "Oh, man, Cotto, one dirty motherfucker. He just keeps hitting you low all the time and hitting you with elbows and blah, blah." So, yeah, that was Corley's explanation about Cotto's fighting style.
Yeah, it was, I think part of the reason he was so solid at 140 pounds is he could bully people a little bit. And then he ran into Margarito. And his transformation to a boxer actually kind of got to give Cotto some credit on that one because he basically rounded himself out like who he needed to be after the Austin Trout fight. You remember, like he thought he was just going to go in there and walk a real junior middleweight down and like, oh, that's not happening. And I just remember him just backing away, like jogging backwards like a pussy at times after Trout would just land a little 3-piece on him, pop, pop, pop. And then Cotto would just bounce back to the corner.
He always did the little jog walk out of range, though, didn't he? He did that against Margarito in the rematch all the time.
Yeah, that was the first time I think I ever really remember him doing it. Did he do it a bit in the Torres fight where there's some moments where that takes...
I don't know. Torres was beating the shit out of him for most of the early fight, wasn't he? That was a cracker, that one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that was a fucking fight, man.
Yeah,
anyways, much like Israel Madronov versus Mikhail Soro, we're trying to help Rob out here. He had said, ladies and gentlemen, that he would be here for the opening bell because he knew that Andy couldn't be here because Andy is going down to Wales for his, as he said, he wants to further his career in livestock photography, whatever that means. So Rob said that he was going to be here for this to help us through. And unfortunately, women have other plans. And Rob's not here with us. He could be here impersonating Katie Taylor with us, but sadly, no, he is not. Steve, do you have anything else to say on that DAZN undercard? I kind of was just vaguely paying attention to it out of the side of my eye. I was chatting with you and the guys there, which was a welcome change of pace. The DAZN not offering much of a product yesterday, other than the Chisora fight, which worked out a bit.
No. Let me see. Let me get the box back up. No, there was nothing of interest. Ramla Ali was on while we were on. I did watch the before the bell stuff. There was a young kid, Yusuf Ibrahim, making his debut against Francisco Rodriguez. He looked okay. It's hard to tell when you're in your first and second fight what he's going to become. Solomon Dakers, yeah, I don't know about him. He was kind of labouring a little bit against this guy, Kevin Espandola. Took a few right hands, which you're going to do, obviously, but I'm not sure about Dakers. We'll keep an eye on him going forward. I didn't see Fabio Wardley against Chris Healy. I know Chris Healy came in looking pretty fat, but I saw bits and pieces of Ajarko in the last couple of rounds against this Lucas Maciek. I've been keeping my eye on Ajarko for a while because obviously he's from Belfast and we've interviewed him, and I know somebody who knows him personally. So, I do keep an eye out for him. He's a good amateur as well. And where they'll take him next, I'm not sure. Maybe Spike O'Sullivan, as you mentioned. Felix Cash was supposed to be on this card. He came off it. I think there was sickness was the official reason given. He was going to fight Vaughan Alexander. It's pretty thin. We were looking at one of the cards in the future week. I think former pod contributor Dangerous Dave Lee from Limerick was putting it up the Dalton Smith against Samo Mason card. And the undercard is just littered with TBAs, man. So, as I said, I don't know what's going on with the zone, but it was pretty weak stuff. Can't blame Eddie for Majimov Soro, and the main event delivered, but the rest of it was pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I kind of think Felix Cash should marry Cash Ali.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Cash.
Yeah, Felix Cash Ali.
Yeah, good times.
Yeah, Frank has a fighter called Sonny Liston Ali, as I said before. There's no pressure on that
Christ. Kid. Stay away from the mob, kid. And if they ask you to join the service, just ask them like for some sort of a fucking Joe Louis kind of, make the troops happy duty.
From Frankie Carbo to Frankie Warren.
Sad Ken, possibly making me sad. Am I misremembering this? He says Mosley versus Mayorga was a good one. Steve, I remember an absolutely horrible fight for 11 and a half rounds until fucking Mosley dropped Mayorga and then finished him off in the last half second. It was an awful clinch fest, wasn't it? Where nothing was happening and they just ended up in a grapple. All I remember
is the finisher of that fight is him finishing him. And wasn't this a Mosley is back kind of fight? Wasn't he seen as being on the decline at that point? And the fact that he knocked out Mayorga was he's still got something left in the tank. Or was that maybe that was Mosley Margarito I'm thinking of.
I think it might have been he fought Margarito, then he fought Mayweather, and then he had that shitty fight against Sergio Mora, and then Mayorga. I might be remembering the timeline wrong. But if I remember that correctly, I'm very impressed with myself.
One good Mayorga fight I remember is against Felix Trinidad. A lot of people thought, I remember on the forums, Steve Connolly was saying he thought that Mayorga was going to muller Trinidad, and Trinidad came out and absolutely beat the shit out of him. But yeah, I don't remember anything about Mosley Mayorga.
Yeah, everyone remembers the knockout. I remember it was an absolutely shitty fight. Joining us on the call just in time, Rob Kelly. Rob, I know you caught the fights in Russia. Tell me what you thought about Kurbanov Teixeira.
This is an absolute barnstormer, wasn't it? Just what you expect on this kind of a fucking... both guys gave their all, not left everything in the ring close. Let's see it again. Let's run it back. That's what I say.
Do you think it's going to go about the same way?
Absolutely. It's going to go the same way as Mosley Mayorga. With one lad left pointing at his hand as he's sitting on the ground.
Do you remember Mosley Mayorga, Rob?
Yeah, you're dead right. It was a shitty fight up until the last round. I think Mosley got him out of there then, didn't he? Didn't he drop him with a left hook and then... It was very close to the last bell, wasn't it? I think it was just on the final bell where he finally knocked him Sparko, wasn't it?
Yeah, with that big left hand.
Yeah. And then, no, it was the Cotto fight where Mayorga was looking at his hand, wasn't it? But anyway, yeah, Mosley knocked him out in the last second. I do remember it indeed. It was a fun fight.
That's the Cotto. God, that Mayorga late in his career was just fun to watch him get his ass kicked for some reason. Nobody can take a beating like Ricardo Mayorga.
Well, I've been saying it. The game is too sanitized now. You need your Ricardo Mayorgas. You need characters like that in order to make fights interesting, make villains, build up, run of the mill defenses with guys who bring about some animosity, entertainment, bit of bad blood. Flip over a table at a press conference the old fashioned way. That's what you want.
They need to quit screening for recreational drugs. I think that's the problem. If you didn't screen for recreational drugs, you'd get more Ricardo Mayorgas.
Yeah, true.
But Steve, what'd you think of that Kurbanov fight? I know you actually caught a little bit of it. I just wanted to fuck with Rob, knowing that he wouldn't do such a thing that would have been a Saturday afternoon. So
Yeah.
no, he wouldn't partake in such things.
No Frankos Buglioniovic on a Saturday afternoon. It was one of those monster cards. Andy gave us the YouTube link, thankfully. So I think it was going from about 1 till about 6 o'clock, and I went back and watched it. I saw a little bit of Tishenko. He's a big lump. His opponent ended up hurting his hand in the end. I saw a bit of Pavel Silyagin as well. He's quite awkward, but he had his nose badly blooded by that Macias. That was the undercard information. And the Kurbanov fight, it was a cracking knockdown from Kurbanov actually in round 1. He caught Teixeira adjusting his feet. He landed this right hand bang on the chin. And from then on, Teixeira was just plodding away, trying to find the equalizer. I know he's a big puncher, but he was throwing a lot of arm punches from what I saw. He didn't look like he was going to hurt Kurbanov. Kurbanov appeared relatively comfortable, switched stances, boxed well. I would have preferred a 12-rounder. I said this last week. I don't know why it was a 10-rounder. Should have been a 12. Kurbanov won't have enough to trouble the elite, but as we mentioned, the titles being thrown down from Charlo, if he ends up dropping them and moving up in weight, then there's every chance the likes of Kurbanov could pick up a splintered world title at some point once the heat of the mandatory starts to go on Charlo. But yeah, he's a decent enough fighter. Shout out to friend of the pod and head of our technical department, Ben Faruqi, who had the insight of the weekend. Kurbanov's left shoulder is perfectly shaved clean, but he has a particularly hairy right shoulder for some reason. Not really sure what's going on there, Matty, but Ben spotted that, so that was good.
Always a good eye with these guys. Boxing fans notice the weirdest things. I know when fighters hurt their hands before the announce crew hurts their hand. Yeah. Anyways, maybe we do need to get a life. But, well, Rob, now that you're with us here, I've got some potentially exciting news. Guess who's only 1 point down in the prediction league?
Me and you, because we got Pulev wrong and Mayorga right.
No, just you.
Oh, Vargas. Oh, I thought we went together on 2 results last week.
Well,
just me then.
No, you're only behind by a point. I'm still way behind because I could have gotten both of them right, and I still wouldn't be in the lead, buddy. But why don't you give us your thoughts on what you saw this weekend, and then we'll move on to some questions from the fans.
Well, I suppose the fight to watch at the weekend was Pulev and Chisora, just for the time that it was on and everything like that. I'm not going to be up in the middle of the night watching fucking Vargas and Masaga or whatever. So I was watching it but I don't know. I thought it was a very poor spectacle, to be honest with you, and I don't know what anybody else expected from watching it. Now I've seen certainly that his own commentary team were singing the praises of it. No surprises there. Dereck Chisora's close friend David Hay had him way out in front. I didn't really see it like that. I kind of had Pulev 1 or 2 rounds ahead, but I could see once it was tight decision come 12 rounds being finished, that Chisora was going to get the nod, just to keep him out again. And it's all a bit fucking. I don't want to sound too negative or come on here just banging the same old drum, but it's a shit card, man. It's an absolute shocker of a card. 41-year-old Pulev, 38-year-old Dereck Chisora in a fucking rematch to a fight that nobody wanted to fucking see, or I bet you nobody's even gone back and watched that fucking first fight. David Hay clearly hasn't, because he thought they'd never fought before, and that's his mate. So that says everything about how shit the fucking first one was, that we had to see it again the second time. Both of them shot to bits. Pulev probably even more so. I mean, I thought I said last week, I thought Pulev had knocked Chisora out late. He was there for the taking, certainly. Blew a gasket after 4 rounds, lay on the ropes. And Pulev couldn't get off, man. It's like since Jenny Sushi, he can't get off anywhere. He's shot to bits, isn't he? I don't know if he had an arm injury last night. He didn't seem to be twisting his hip into the shops, putting his full shoulder into the right hand at all. It looked like he was just plodding with it a little bit. So I wonder, did he do some damage to the arm or the shoulder there somewhere along the line? It looked like he was kind of gun shy, but no reason to be gun shy against Dereck Chisora, really, seeing as he'd seen it all and done it all before. But a shit fight, and just, can we can this fucking nonsense off, by the way, with Eddie Hearn afterwards? He's only got a few left in him, but I want the big fights for him. We're looking at Deontay Wilder. Would you piss off, man? Just, first of all, for all jokes aside, right? All jokes aside, in all seriousness, we're laughing about Dereck Chisora and roll him out again, and he'd be like Stephen Hawking. But they asked him who he wanted to fight next last night. He couldn't think of Deontay Wilder's name. I called him the Browns, the bomber. I told Eddie to get me the Browns bomber guy. I can't even fucking... So I'm no brain surgeon, as you know, but that's not a good sign. Eddie is doing this fucking shit that he does all the time with his fighters, where he puts their fucking name in the frame with a fighter that he knows that has absolutely no chance of landing the fight. Dereck Chisora is on DAZN. Eddie Hearn is on DAZN. Deontay Wilder is with Uncle Al and Showtime, and if he has a deal that's expired somewhere, this is a fella that came to the ring in a fucking Wakanda outfit. He's going to go back with Uncle Al anyway. He's not signing with fucking Eddie Hearn to fucking fight Dereck Chisora. Give me a fucking break. So what you're going to get is Dereck Chisora versus Dillian White 3 on pay-per-view. DAZN, baby. Come over. There's no fights for you. Evening 8.
That was intense. All right. And that's what Rob thinks about that. Let's see here.
Yeah, but like all seriousness, like jokes aside, like you want to fucking put Dereck Chisora in with Deontay? What, you want him to die? Does he owe you money or something? Why would you say that? Like, you know, fucking full well you can't make. You have never made a fight with Wilder, Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn has never made a fucking fight with Wilder in it. Why does he keep bringing his fucking name up for that? Fight's not happening. Like, there's no way that Uncle Al and Deontay Wilder are going to come over to Wembley. By the way, as well, can we retire that fucking Dereck Chisora? It's Anthony Joshua. Anthony Crawler. Ebony Brick. Go fuck yourselves. Get a new song. All he is. Anyone that fucking has a DAZN subscription or a Matchroom fucking pass, go fuck off and get a new song.
What about rapping Rob Kelly?
No, that sounds great. There's a really ring to it. Take that one.
Yeah, there's only 4 syllables. Your name's 4 syllables. Yeah, it's like if they can make it work, they just run with it, right? You know. Anyways, we got some questions in here. Steve says we got some questions. Let's see what we got here. See if there's any madness. Oh man, we got some good questions in here. All right, Dr. FMG. Any update intel on Irish Joe Ward? Not much in the way of hype for a lad who beat Frank Sanchez in the amateurs. What plans might DeBella have for the lad? Steve.
I'll let Rob jump in on this one.
Yeah, he's plodding away, isn't he, Joe? I think he had I don't want to fucking go into this, like, because this is not published anywhere in any boxing circles, but I think he had 1 or 2 issues in his private life. A couple of times he broke his leg, obviously, on the pro debut. But they seem to be just building him slowly. He's doing the circuit, isn't he? He's had some fights in Mexico. He's had some fights on the undercard of the Garden. But he's definitely one to watch. I don't know. Like, obviously, he's not with one of the bigger promoters in Lou DiBella, but Lou isn't no mug. He knows how to work a fighter into a good position, paying the sanctioning fees and all that. Like, he's not a kind of an in-house money fighter. But I tell you what, he's fucking good, and he's got Joey Gamachi as well. So watch this space for Joe Ward. I think he has the makings of a good light heavyweight. I think he's done the right thing by getting away from Mullingar and going to the US. So I'd be interested to see where he goes. But yeah, they seem to have a very close relationship as well, him and Gamachi. So not a lot of hype, I'd agree, but definitely a fighter worth watching.
Rob's right, yeah. Really talented. Hopefully that he can work it out now. Breaking his leg on the debut was catastrophic for him, or the second fight, whenever it was. But I hope DiBella can maneuver him into a decent fight now, Matty, because he really is talented.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that. That was fucking gross. Let's see here. Got a question from Jamie. Thank you for that one, Dr. FMG. Oh, God darn it. There we go. Evening, lads. They say never meet your heroes. So with that being said, who's the all-round soundest person in the game? Fighters, trainers, media, whatever you've met. And who's the biggest bell? Steve, you've met a lot of different people. I know you don't want to ruin relationships, but fuck it. Who are some assholes?
No, I'm past the stage of ruining relationships now. I don't care about that. But I'll say this honestly and truthfully, right? One thing about boxing, over all the years, I've been covering it since 2005, some 250 plus shows all over the world, blah, blah, blah. And I've never met anybody who's been an absolute arsehole. There's a couple I've had like a bit of a misunderstanding with. I had a miscommunication with Dave Boy McCauley many years ago in Letterkenny. You're going back to 2008, 2009 territory. But aside from that, I'm not even lying. I've interviewed Broner. I've interviewed Danny Garcia, Wilder, Fury, David Lemieux. loads of people over the years, and I've never met anyone who's an arsehole, or I'd say, oh, fucking, he's a dickhead. Everyone's been sound, honestly.
You know, and that's rare to be able to say that about a French Canadian. Really shows you the quality of boxers.
It's an accessible sport, isn't it? Because it's a sport, like, it's not Premier League football. You wouldn't have like the iPad waving arseholes like us going up and interviewing anybody, but you can get numbers. I remember Shelley Finkel was my point of contact. I got Shelley Finkel's number, and I used to ring him up all the time, and I'd be like, "Can I have so and so's number?" Yeah, like you say, give me Broner's, got me in touch with Wilder. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I interviewed, and Finkel would have just given you the number, and you would have been able to ring him, and it would have been no. But Mike Stafford put the phone down on me, actually. Broner's trainer, yeah, forgot about him. I rang him, and he put the phone down on me, no messing, but. Yeah, you can get in touch with pretty much anybody you want to, and at the press conferences and at the shows, they're generally more than happy to talk to you. Sergio Martinez, interviewed him, couldn't speak a word of English, but beautiful man. Yeah, there's loads of them. They've all been dead on.
Beautiful man. There's a reason we called him the Sex back in the day. Forever Team Sex. Rob, were you Team Sex?
I started that team. I think I was the fucking captain of that team.
Have you met any assholes in the boxing universe, or some particularly pleasant people who you're very fond of?
Oh, look, I was blessed. Like, so I kind of met a lot of people that I would have had like as heroes or idols or whatever in music, and I learned very early, like, just don't fucking outstay your welcome. You know that way. Like, just keep it moving. Fellas are busy, whatever, they're doing their thing. They don't want to fucking sit and chat with you about how your record fucking impacted their life or whatever. So you just fucking keep it moving, keep it very respectful and handshaking that. Like, so I always kind of stuck to that. I never wanted to be around. And I think I mentioned this before on the pod. Like, I used to notice when I was down and around Andy Lee or whatever, because I was down there just to do like the rig entrance or whatever. But obviously, like, you're in the hotel during the day, you're hanging out with everybody, and me and Manny got to know each other like pretty well. Andy said, like, on the interview when he was on here, like, Manuel had a lot of time for Rob. Well, I have to say, like, he did. He made so much time for me. Every time I seen him, he like kind of cleared space or whatever. We'd end up having a chat. We went for dinner and everything before, just chat a boxing. So he was undoubtedly like the soundest guy that I met, and he was like, even it kind of surpassed expectations, you know, that way. So just to even have like fucking 10 minutes with him, I would have been thrilled. Like, but he was like, "Oh, let's go for dinner." Like, we were just talking nonstop about boxing in the fucking 50s and everything. It was unreal. So that was like a strong relationship. But then Joey Gamachi as well, obviously fucking top man. Sugar Hill is decent as well. He's a little bit more aloof. I'd say he's a bit more kind of, but like Steve said, no way an arsehole. I like, this guy never did anything on me. Like, I never had any kind of like interaction with his presence, just fucking on me. Like, and I know this might sound terrible. He probably doesn't even fucking remember me. Like, but Brian Peters, man, I just couldn't take to him whatsoever. Like, and I not really like that either. Like, and I just could not fucking take to this guy, the way he carried himself, the shit he was saying and whatever in the build up. Wasn't my type of guy. But again, I didn't have nothing to do with him. But most of them unbelievably sound, like fucking top men. I mean, there's some like that you wouldn't fucking like want to, you know, hang around and steal a few words with or try and bother them too much. Like, Eamon McGee's very stone-faced character. Like, I met him one time. He's not giving up much, like, you know, that way. So, but then again, I don't fucking want to meet anybody, and I don't want to be nobody's friend. I have enough fucking friends, so, you know, that way. I always kind of keep the interactions short and sweet. Like.
Here, talking of Eamon McGee, I remember years ago we were to show in, I think that was in Letterkenny as well, or Castle Bar. It was one of the places, and Eamon McGee was wandering around afterwards. He'd done the corner for one of the fighters, and he was sozzled. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and he couldn't find the way out of the hotel or the way out of the arena to get back to his hotel. And he was like, "Where's the way out? Where's the way out, boys?" And me and whoever I was with were like showing him the directions. And about 5 minutes later, we bumped back into him again, and he was like, "You told me the wrong fucking way out." I was like, "Eamon, we didn't. Honestly, he couldn't find that. He couldn't find his way out of the place, man. He's some character, like, but yeah, many more Eamon McGee stories, but that's maybe the only one I can tell."
Declan Graffin throwing in 5 pounds there, says, "Evening, Edward." Actually, Ed's probably having a pretty good evening. He can milk another one out of Del Boy, so I bet he's just fucking ecstatic at this point. You know, I'm not much of a get out and talk to people kind of guy either. I feel you, Rob. I'll tell you from, like, you know, the time that I've spent in certain areas, you know, kind of on the outside of some kind of like cool politics shit and you know, messing around in boxing and stuff like that, is people who like are known they don't want to talk about themselves a lot of the time, unless you're hot and a chick, then they might want to talk, about themselves, with the goal being, to continue talking about themselves in the room with you. But a lot of these people, like like Rob was getting on there, is like they like talking about people who share their passions and can talk about like the things that they love. So it's like a matter of like, so if you want to talk about, with like and 90s rock and roller, about music and shit like that. They don't want to talk about them and stuff like that. They're probably going to want to talk to you about like, their love for Led Zeppelin and shit like that. Because that's
Then,
what
as well
made
as
them
that, like,
want to get into music.
as well as that, you got to understand, like, every fucking fuckface with a fucking microphone and a camera is putting their camera in their face, asking them the same shit. So, like, if there's a fight coming up and you're like, so who do you think is going to win this fight, eh? They don't want to fucking, do you know what I mean? But like, as well as that, I used to always be conscious that I never wanted to be part of anybody's entourage, like, you know what I mean? So I never wanted to be like
You had
the
your own
hanger on
fucking entourage.
No, I know, but there's times like when I was down it with Andy and all, like, they'd be all getting in the limo and asking me like on the way over to the fight, do you want to jump in? And I'd be like, no, like, I just fucking drive over. Like, I didn't want to be seen as a kind of hanger on, but that's just me. I'm a bit odd anyway, you know that way.
You just didn't want to end up like Tupac.
Definitely.
Like Once Up.
You
would end up like Once Up.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, R.I.P.
Yeah, Matty, did you not make friends with Nate Campbell or something?
So Nate, we had good times on that. What sucked is like during after our interview and all that is when we had serious flooding out here in Colorado. So I couldn't maintain contact like anybody because I'm like pumping water out of my basement for a fucking month straight and shit. So that was kind of sucked because I couldn't hang on, and he ended up making contact with another boxing site and shit. But Nate was a great guy. I love talking to him. If you love boxing, you should definitely go back and listen to my interview with Nate Campbell. It's on, you can look it up on YouTube.
An underappreciated fighter, I always thought, Nate Campbell.
Oh, he was tremendous, and I think people really got on him for his reputation being sticking his chin out against Pedden.
Yeah.
But he what he did to Juan Diaz was really incredible, considering that the run that Diaz was on at the time. And then some of the wins he picked up afterwards, because Juan Diaz thought that he was going to go in there and out muscle Nate Campbell, and Nate Campbell went in there and absolutely outmanned Juan Diaz. Like, that fight, the only way to describe it is that was a boy versus a man. Definitely a great performance. And then what he did after that, some out of the fire performances, putting Funica on his ass a couple of times, had trouble making weight, and then he fucked up his back after a little bit after that. But Nate, great guy, underrated fighter, and he's definitely worth talking to on boxing because he loves the game, and he was involved in that Florida boxing scene when it was Tarver, and Tarver was in the AMs and stuff like that. He was good friends with Malik Scott, so he's just in the game kind of dude, and great to talk to him. We mentioned Don Charles earlier, back in the corner, Dereck Chisora. I am super fond of Don Charles. I love his passion behind not only boxing, but the way that how he's so passionate about sending a message to his African immigrant brothers and wanting them to strive for more and to work hard and to make themselves known and respected in the UK. And he's got a very powerful message, and I hope that in his time he's getting a chance to maybe spend it with youth and things like that, because I think we need more men like Don Charles involved in our children's lives, because people like that, they're going to create strong young men who are going to do good things, even if that good thing is just being a good provider for their family and having strong work ethic. Really fond of him. Doug Fisher was fun to talk to. John Scully, real fun to talk to. Enjoyed the heck out of that. And then got to go.
I bet John Scully is good. I'm just friends with him on Facebook. I don't know him or anything. I just kind of follow his statuses, but I bet he's good value. Like,
yeah, he's a really good cat. Another guy that he's been in the game in all portions of it, so he knows it back and front. He was a great guy to talk to. Peter Fury is a kick too, man. I love talking to Peter. Such an interesting guy to talk to because the Travelers, they're just tremendously interesting people. And it was cool listening to him talk about how insulated they are. And then, I think it was the next year after we interviewed him, how they took Eddie Chambers into their camp. So interesting when you look back on that. But had some good times in the past. Definitely had some good times talking to those people. And we thank you, Jamie. Let's see here. Andrew Wedgwood says, do you lads think it's time promoters cut their cloth accordingly and accepted they need to go back to ice rinks and smaller venues for fights apart from obvious mega ones like Fury and Joshua? Low crowd for Joe Joyce at Wembley, and as for Nathan Gorman and Liverpool, just to name a couple. I'll stand corrected if Chisora Pulev is a sellout. Was it a sellout yesterday, Steve?
Nah, I don't think so. I don't know what the exact numbers were. The boys were saying in the chat it might be 5,000, 7,000. I'm not sure, but it was no. I don't think. I think they did the lower bowl. Someone was saying it wasn't a sellout though.
Sad days. Do you think that they need to be going back to some smaller kind of club shows, Rob, and just sell 1,000 tickets instead of trying to sell 10,000?
Who's this we're talking about?
Just the question on the screen.
Yeah, so I think yeah, I don't know. I think with all the streaming platforms and all the different networks and all the different promoters involved and all the different sanctioning bodies involved, it's very fucking difficult to see where the money is coming from and who's making the money. That way it seems to be like, I think there's going to be a knock-on effect to the cost of living crisis on all these streaming platforms in the near future too. So it might dry up. It might be back fucking fighting on top of a container by the time the shake-up happens. Like, so yeah, maybe going back to the small. There's good atmosphere in the small hall shows too, so there's nothing wrong with that. Like, 'cause some of the best fights you'll see will be in the smaller venues. Like,
yeah, I'll throw something in quickly, Matty. This is an interesting question when Andrew asked it, because whenever Eddie first came on the scene around, was it 2010 kind of era, he was doing a lot of fights in Belfast, Frampton, McCluskey, as I mentioned earlier, those kind of fights. So we got access to him. He was a breath of fresh air back then. And I was in the press conference when he made that infamous line, no more shit fights in leisure centres, which was like a kind of dig at the previous Sky promoters, your Frank Maloney's, even Warren to a certain extent. But it's kind of this one-upmanship has led to you can't go back to anything resembling a small hall, because I don't know whether they would look at it as kind of a come down or what. But I think nowadays there's a place for fights in the Copper Box or in York Hall or something, and they don't need to maybe try and put them in bigger venues, these grandiose venues. Wasn't it Wasserman or someone were doing the Indigo or some arena in Liverpool or something, and people were commenting, and you're only selling what 500, 600 tickets or something. There's maybe no need for it. So maybe
people
they should
need to
come
get
down.
over their ego, man.
Yeah, something like that. So maybe there is time to go back for shit fights in leisure centres or something to a certain degree. Get back on the car park, that's what I say. What about Dennis Hobson's car park? That's where we need to go.
Man, I remember when Paulie Malignaggi defended his title in front of probably like 600 or 800 people. It was a super small place against Herman. What was his name? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It, I mean, you get over it, like sometimes you're not selling out and things like that. It just, they need to be smarter with this, especially in this economy. Cause what's going to happen, Steve, is they're going to end up going back to having shows in Eddie's yard reserved for the very wealthiest people. And this time around, the people will be paying 12, possibly even 15 pounds for an individual pizza.
As long as they don't go out to Epstein Island. But Regis Prograis, I think it was, had one of the shows back in, was it Lafayette or New Orleans? I'm useless with American geography, but it looked to me, Andy mentioned it before, like there was about 100 people. It looked like a gym show. And Justin as well, one of our patrons, the North Carolina assassin who you met last night, he once went to a show in some kind of club show, and the ring collapsed. So there's all sorts of shenanigans maybe going on at these small hall shows. Maybe rugs, like in Egypt.
Say what you will about the rugs, but the ring didn't collapse. Exactly. So rugs won.
Yeah.
Your method 0. Yeah. Well, thank you, Andrew, for that question there. Damo. Listening into another podcast this week. Why would you do that, Damo? Why? Anyhow, one topic which got discussed and got me thinking was around the up-and-coming talent pool across the UK promoters. Keeping it to the UK and Irish boxers, how do the Asylum aristocracy see it? For reference, the way it was positioned on the other podcast, as I remember, it was number 1 Matchroom by a country mile, apparently. 2 Boxer, 3 Queensbury. Other promoters weren't really discussed. Rob, Steve and I got into this a little bit yesterday on the call-in with the Patreon guys. How do you see this battle of the UK-based promoters?
Yeah, I don't really give a fuck, man. To be honest with you, as long as I see the fights, I don't give a shit. Like, I know it appears like sometimes on the agenda, on the Asylum, like we have an anti-matchroom agenda or something, or we've been accused of that before. But as I said, like with a can man, anyone can get it. Apart from Ben Shalom, who's a great guy. Obviously, he's fucking streets ahead of the rest of them over there. But no, I think Frank has held up his end of the bargain there with winning the big purse bid in the White Fury fight. That kind of puts him on top. The AJ Usyk fight was a big event at Wembley, but DAZN and Matchroom haven't been delivering on the scale that they promised they would. So if they had been just carrying on about their business like they were on Sky, they might have kind of got away with this. But this, we're going to conquer America. Wait to see what's coming. And then, you're getting Golovkin, Canelo 3. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, but out of the UK promoters, I don't know, and I don't give a fuck as long as I see good fights. Not being smart, like, to the listeners. Just, that I'm not invested. Like, the good fighters fight each other. So.
Amen. And sorry for the way I was talking that question. I tried to take a bite of food real quick, thinking the discussion would go a bit longer on the last one. And unfortunately, that didn't happen, and I was left with, oh, fuck. So anyhow, yes, like I said, Steve, you are the consummate professional, and I'm just kind of here.
You're doing a fine job, Matthew.
Yes. What are your thoughts on this question? I figure after yesterday, you had a chance to maybe round out your thoughts a little bit more even.
Well, the consummate professional in me would have done that, Matthew, but actually, no, I didn't. I didn't round out any thoughts. I forgot all about it as soon as the call went down. But yeah, it was an interesting discussion with the boys. Matchroom, I wouldn't say by a country mile, and not at the moment. They kind of seem to be on the wane. Eddie's got all this good value going with people, but DAZN now is struggling a little bit. People, some of his fighters look like they want to jump ship. I know Lawrence Okoli's making a few noises. Liam Smith's not been happy. Felix Cash hasn't been happy either. Who's actually seeing them fighting on this app? So his stable's diminishing. Obviously, he's got the Golden Coastal, Anthony Joshua floating about, and wider, he's got, well, he's sort of associated with Canelo, but we're talking about UK and Irish boxers. I would maybe have Queensbury up ahead of Boxer at the moment. I know Boxer have signed these new amateur stars and that, but apart from the likes of Riakpour and Huey Fury signed to them as well, Shalom's starting to build a stable slowly but surely. But people are going to start coming back to Sky, I think, especially with Taylor there as well, and Joshua Usyk too being on Sky. That's where the Sky Sports News is, the pay-per-view. The Saturday night fight nights are traditionally on Sky, so I can see people going back to them. As for Queensbury, again, another golden goose for Frank if you're counting Tyson Fury. And Frank has that strength in depth as well, with good classic Friday and Saturday night BT Sports headliners. They might not be the most glamorous names in the world, but people like Anthony Yard, and I don't think Lyndon Arthur's even there anymore, but Jason Cunningham, who we saw, Zolani Tete, Brad Foster, Shiraz, who's coming up next week. They can hold their own on a Saturday evening card. So Frank he still knows what he's doing. He has that strength in depth. So I don't think there's much between them. There's no country mile, as this other podcast suggests. But yeah, it's becoming thinner, and I've made my feelings known on this before. I don't think it's good seeing all of these cards. I don't think it's good having all of these stations. It might be good for the boxers and getting them paid a bit more money, but people are starting to dissent now. There's people not happy. Isn't Billy Joe Saunders kicking off on Instagram as well about not getting a fight? So all might not be well underneath the seams, and I don't think there's much between them.
I saw someone on Twitter called Billy Joe Saunders, Billy Joe Launders.
That's very good. What I so let me kind of pose it to you that like this way though. I think this might be the direction fighters are going. Whether they're entering into the sport, different story. You got to work your way up the way you work your way up, and whether you're fighting a fighter from the UK or Latvia in your third fight, who gives a shit? But when you get to a point where you're seeking titles, you're seeking opportunities, and you're an UK-based fighter, are you going to go with Eddie Hearn, who is notoriously arrogant and difficult to work with for other promoters? Or are you going to go with Frank Warren, who has a decent relationship with multiple other promoters on both sides of the pond? I think that answer is pretty clear. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, well, Frank has the history in the game. I'm not so sure Eddie's long for this game. Well, he certainly isn't in America anyway. I think he's made a vast personal fortune. Isn't there a stake of Matchroom coming up for sale? Yeah, I can see him being out the boxing game in a few years. I don't know whether it holds his interest anymore. Regarding the Okoli situation, he's done a good job with Okoli, actually. I'm not sure the ins and outs and the contractual things and who's saying what. Okoli's clearly not happy, but Eddie's got him a world title and got him good paydays. And don't forget, Okoli, he might be exciting now, banging out the likes of Glavaki or whoever it was, but he was absolute dog shit in some of them fights against Askin and Chamberlain, hugging people to death. Nobody wants to see that again. And Eddie's managed to maneuver him in the point of unification. So I'm not sure where the blame lies on that one, but yeah, he feels to me, him and old Satanta stroke DAZN feels like it's kind of on the way out, but he might bounce back with something out, but maybe boxing's not for him anymore.
We will see where Eddie goes in the next few years. Evening, Ed. He's got to stick around. You got to. I tell you what, he has got to be praying to multiple gods, going to multiple different churches, just to try to get it right that Anthony Joshua pulls it out against Usyk. Because if he doesn't get at least one fight with him back on DAZN, what a terrible deal! Like, yeah. We signed a deal that he's going to be with me from now till the end of his career. Well, didn't know that was going to be 12 months. Fuck.
Such an odd situation, man. I don't know.
Tremendously odd. So we thank you for that question. Declan Graffin. Question for the pod. Without sounding too rude, do the panel recall anybody as shite technically as Joyce getting far in the sport? If he didn't have Injun Chin, he would have been KO'd long time ago. While there's obvious example, but I'm struggling to think of anybody else. Getting this far in the sport. So you basically have to say getting a title opportunity. So there's a lot of people that have been kind of shit technically who have been to the point where they'll get a title opportunity. That's
whenever he said Injun Chin, I thought of Injun Chi. Do you remember him? He wasn't the best technically, was he?
I thought of fucking Injun Joe. I thought we were back on Huckleberry Chin like last week.
Huckleberry Chin.
Well, Declan, I don't know if fucking Joe Joyce is that bad technically. Actually, I think he's not too bad. Like, I know he gets hit a lot, but like I said, he's going to be tough. He uses his attributes well. Like, he's going to be a tough fighter to beat. Declan.
Well, that's the thing. They mention Wilder again. I don't want to go on a Wilder rant, but they say, they're so bad technically. Well, he can't be that bad technically, can he, if he's getting into position to knock all these people out? I mean, even the likes of... Do you remember Carlos Mosa, who fought Ricky Hatton? He was diabolical technically. I remember him scraping the floor to try and knock Vivian Harris out. He was still a world champion. So I suppose at the end of the day, your technical limitations don't have to hold you back from getting to world level in this sport.
Yeah, well, I think Wilder had the fucking equalizer, obviously, and he did improve. He was fucking shocking in his first 20 fights, but he definitely improved under Breland to a degree. I thought the Stavern.
You broke up there, Rob. I think we lost Rob.
I think he said he had Stavern in the rematch against Wilder or something.
Most likely. There he is.
No.
There he is. We got you, Rob.
Yeah, no, I was saying Wilder has shown he's improved over the years. He's not as bad as he was when his first 20 fights were dire, when he just had the punch. But I think Breland definitely put some shape on him, and a lot of the knockouts that he had, against Brazil, against Ortiz, there's a setup behind him. He's not just fucking windmilling the shots. He had a little blinder of a jab there that he used to throw out and then fucking throw the right hand straight down behind. Well, not straight, but he used to throw the right hand behind it. And it's a fucking...
just building towards that salient point, and then he disappears again.
I gotta get the fuck out of here. I gotta get out of here wherever I am. I can't survive in here.
Reconnect, Rob. We'll hold it down. Aaron Yuda mentions Nikolai Valuev, man. I defend Valuev because he was only ever set up to be a sideshow, and he vastly overachieved. Bob Arum used to have him on those undercards Top Rank, and he used to go around the world, Valuev, at the beginning. I used to watch his fights actually on DVD. That's how sad I was, against like Bob Mirovic in Australia, and they took him over to China and all over the world. He was a freak show, a sideshow, because he was like 7'2". He ended up winning the WBA title, and he wasn't the best in the world technically, but he done well. He had a good career for what he was supposed to be. He was meant to be a freak, and he ended up as fighting at a good level. So I'm going to defend Valuev.
Got some decent wins. He should have not gotten the win over Holyfield. I thought that Evander got robbed of a hell of an accomplishment.
Well, funny you mentioned that, by the way. I think I said this before on the pod. I remember being at a wedding that night and I couldn't see the fight, but I was looking at the BBC live commentary on the BlackBerry or something back then. Like, do you remember those kind of live ticker tape fucking sporting reports that used to be on BBC? I was like round by round, but they had Hay losing the fight, and I think because that fight was close, Hay got the benefit because there'd been an investigation into the WBA for awarding Valuev the win over Holyfield. So as soon as it was a close fight, Hay was going to get it. I don't know if that many people remember, but I don't think Hay did really that well enough. I know he wobbled him towards the end, but Valuev was shit. Like, but
he had a win over Gerald Nobles. Do you remember him, Matty, the Jedi Warrior? He had an amazing pair of tits. He was actually a talented fighter, but he didn't really do anything with his career.
I do not remember him.
Yeah.
I guess I missed that wonder of boxing. Let's see here. We got a good one up here. So, Steve, I'm actually going to let you kind of take us through the origin of how we ended up with this as a question.
Yes, we ended up as a discussion point because Billy Dibb, former contender, champion, whatever he was, I think he fought Amir Khan, said, in my opinion, David Tua was one of the most fearsome heavyweight contenders to not win a championship. Do you agree? Vanderpool nominated it for Bellew of the Week, but I thought to myself, that might be a decent discussion on a quiet week. So I decided to throw that forward. And the other week, we were talking about the likes of Ron Lyle, Ernie Shavers. I mean, flip me, they're some of the most fearsome heavyweight contenders, big punchers, and they'll be right up there, but not discrediting Tua. He was a fine fighter, massive left hook, ate a lot of punishment, would knock you bang out as he did with John Ruiz if you made any mistake, but he could be outboxed, as anyone who stayed up to watch the Lennox Lewis fight like a fool like I did. He was really neutralised by Lewis, but he was definitely a fearsome contender. And another one I'll throw in, we've mentioned him before, he never really fulfilled any kind of potential because he was too busy running over people and getting into all sorts of trouble, was Ike Bayabuchi, the president. Thought he was a fantastic fighter and would have definitely been a champion. Again, a fearsome heavyweight contender, not to win a world championship. We all know the reasons why. But you're looking at the likes of Shavers, Lyle, Tua. There'll be quite a few of them, I'd say. But Tua would be definitely up there, I'd say, Matter.
You got to give credit to a guy who's fought the people he's fought and has, not been stopped. He didn't even get knocked down for the first time in his career until he fought Monty Barrett when he was about almost 40 at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just a beast. As far as, and to take those bombs from Ibuchi was crazy. Absolutely crazy. You have to look at him just as, I mean, he's not a super big guy as far as height. He was just a tank. And it's a shame that he kind of lingered a little bit in his career after the Rockman draw. I think that was in their second fight.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he basically fought no one for the rest of his career. Ustinov at the last fight of his career.
Shane Cameron, didn't he, in the New Zealand fight?
Yeah. But Shane Cameron, didn't he start out as a cruiserweight? I'm trying to think about how that whole thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think how that. I saw that name and I'm like, I remember that. I'm like, Cameron was supposed to be something, and like old Tua just came in there and just blitzkrieged him. Yeah, because Tua had been out of the ring for 2 years. Yeah, I remember that now.
Jason Chahal says Herbie Hyde, but no, Herbie. I don't know if he counted or not. Herbie Hyde was the WBO champion because when he fought Riddick Bowe in 1994, Bowe had dropped the WBC title, as we know, and binned it and dropped whatever other title he had, and fought Hyde for Hyde's WBO title on HBO. And the WBO was so lightly regarded at the time that, wasn't it, Lampley and HBO refused to recognise it as a title. They're basically laughing at it. Bowe proceeded to knock Hyde down about 6 times and won that title, but technically no, Hyde would have been a world champion, especially now the WBO is more recognised than it was back then.
Yeah, well, because they didn't consider it part of the title era until I'm trying to think when that was. I don't know.
The WBO started coming into prominence in the late 80s because Michael Moorer held it in 88 and he went on a mad run of beating no marks before he moved up to heavyweight. And didn't Francesco Damiani have the heavyweight version of the WBO because he was like technically the rival to Tyson's undisputed unification, wasn't he? But I mean, nobody recognized the WBO at the time.
The only people that recognized the WBO were British fight fans who were fans of Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn, Joe Calzaghe, these WBO operators from the 90s who were fucking picking up world titles that weren't world titles, like, but they were marketable for a terrestrial date on ITV, like, so the world title it kind of picked up more steam, but definitely the broadcasters were more kind of on board with the WBO being a title, but the writers and everybody at the time, I remember I still have like the Boxing Monthlies and the Ring magazines from that era. And I think Doug DeWitt and Ben Winner from Doug DeWitt, a WBO middleweight title or super middleweight title or something, like, nobody really regarded it as a real body until I suppose the early 2000s. That's when it kind of became solidified, like.
Yeah, Matty, controversy. Jason Chahal's right, actually. Yeah, Vitaly Klitschko, he did knock out Hyde for that title, so I'm on bullshit alert here. That was in 2 rounds in Germany, wasn't it? There. So what am I thinking of? Then let me check it out here. Hyde against Bo. What was that for? Maybe it wasn't for the WBO title. That was 99. Yeah, second round. Sorry about this, Matty. Yeah, 1995. No. Yeah, the WBO was on the line. It must have been vacant then.
There but
he'd beaten Michael Bent. No, hang on, Chahal. I'm gonna have to challenge you on this here. Hyde knocked out Michael Bent in 7 rounds to win the WBO title in 94, and then he lost it the next fight in 6 rounds to Riddick Bowe in 95. Then he won the WBO again, against Tony Tucker, and lost that second reign against Vitaly Klitschko. So we're both right. Sorry, Matter.
Tony Tucker was about 100, by the way. He had given Tyson a good fight in his, I think, for the IBF title when Tyson was scooping up when he was unifying the division. It was Barbic first, then Bone Crusher Smith, then Tony Tucker. 2 of them on points, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
I didn't know Herbie Hyde was a 2-time WBO champion, Matty, so there we go. We're all learning something tonight.
I still think it's absolutely crazy that Larry Holmes continued fighting after he got stopped by Mike Tyson. And in a title fights, like that's fucking. Yeah. That period of boxing is just crazy as hell. But Rob, you haven't given us your thoughts on David Tua yet, though. What are your thoughts on good old left hook Tua?
He was exciting. I mean, again, the division at the moment is outside the top 3. Like, it's devoid of characters and devoid of exciting fighters that you get up and watch. Like Steve said, we got up to watch it because fight fans genuinely thought Tua had a chance of beating Lennox Lewis, especially after the Oliver McCall knockout and all. You would have thought that if Tua could have connected on him, he could have had him in real trouble. But yeah, he was an exciting guy, tough yoke. Like, just probably came at the wrong era for him. Like, it was a division that was kind of rich on talent at that time. Like, you know, you had Riddick Bowe floating around, Ray Mercer, fucking Holyfield, Lewis, Tyson, Jesus Christ, like it was a kind of a tough era for him to flourish in, but he was a good fighter. Nothing right. I wouldn't fucking throw on any of his fucking fights again. The John Ruiz knockout was pretty good. Absolutely fucking battered him. Jesus, Storm and Norman must have been fucking raging that night, by the way. He must have been fucking bulling. But yeah, good fighter.
I remember Tua knocking out Michael Moorer, Matty. That's how sad I am. Where was I? I think I was in Florida. It would have been about 2001. Calzaghe had beaten Miguel Angel Jimenez the same day in Cardiff, and Showtime was showing that first. And then they showed Tua against Moorer, give it the big, massive build-up. Moorer, obviously, this was 2001. He was done by then. And Tua knocked him out in about 45 seconds or something.
Yeah. Pretty, God, he was a little bit heavy on his legs at that point in time to be going against a tank like Tua.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what, the 90s were just a great period of heavyweights. I don't want to go too far down a different rabbit hole, but I mean, it probably is the second greatest era of heavyweight boxing after the 70s. I struggle to think of a better time.
Mm-hmm. We've gone down some right rabbit holes tonight, haven't we? It's been great.
Yeah, the first hour was tremendous, and then Rob came in and ruined this whole 2-minute thing we had going on here.
Sorry about that, Steve. I fucking I left you a full hour with him on your own. I fucking couldn't get there any quicker. I had to laugh, by the way. The fella, one of the listeners, he'll know who he is. He left a comment during the week and he said, great guys, great work as always. I'd love to listen live, but Sundays are my time with the missus from 6 o'clock, so I have to catch up the next day. And I'm thinking to myself, my missus not talking to me from Monday to fucking Wednesday for the last fucking 5 years because I'm fucking giving up my wife time to come and talk to you fucking idiots. And he's fucking kicking back with the missus watching fucking Hard to Hard, eating Maltesers or whatever he's doing. Best of luck to you, pal. I had to fucking, what they call it, me dinner. It's my birthday there during the week, like, and my missus after booking a fucking dinner for me, and I told the boys I'd be on from 8 o'clock because Patterson has gone fucking walking with the Orange March or whatever the fuck he goes around this time of year. And she's looking at me in the restaurant like we're eating a dessert. I'm looking at the fucking phone for the time, and she's like, "Some fella called Andy Patterson is after saying that the pod is on in 40 minutes, mate." So I was like, "Yeah, don't worry, tell him I'll be on."
You know the crack, Matty. After about 10:30, my missus starts texting me going, "What the fuck are you doing down there?" So we're up against the clock here.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised we got here. It just kind of stretched it out. Yeah, we found a rhythm and we just ran with it. You know, like Steve texted me on a different app and he said, "I don't know why we have these other assholes. This is going great." No, that's a lie. That's a lie. I think we would have been lost for roughly 500 episodes without Andy. He seems to be the glue. He is that constant. So it's hard to argue.
The Rock Rackman.
Yeah. I'm telling you. But anyways, so yeah, moving forward, we do have some action coming up this week. We're going to kind of work backwards. We're not going chronological here. We'll be working up towards our predictions this week. But let's start it off with an interesting enough card over it from the Copper Box on Saturday. Lennox Clark, Mark Heffron for the Commonwealth and British titles. Also, you got Nick Ball coming back for his first fight since beating the smack out of Isaac Lowe against Nathaniel Cocololo. Gotta love that one, Steve. Why don't you take us through that card? Cocololo.
Yeah, Nathaniel Big Cocololo has jumped in at short notice. I believe it was supposed to be Nathan Collins or something originally, but for the British title, but now it's this WBC title instead. Hamza Shiraz against Francisco Emmanuel Torres. I think I'm right in saying, I'm going to check it right now. Tell you what, Torres has got some box rec photo, by the way. You should check that out. Yes, he drew with Jose Benavidez Jr. in his last fight. Benavidez, who's next fighting Danny Garcia. So he has a bit of credibility about him. Interesting enough fight. Shiraz originally, they were talking about Vinny Fagan boots, I think. Frank was trying to pronounce the surname. They weren't able to get it over the line because of the financial demands of Fagan boots. So he's in against this Torres anyway. Coming off the back of a draw against Benavidez, even a Benavidez who's been out for a couple of years, he's decent enough form. Dennis McCann's going in against James Beach Jr. James Beach Sr. was a well-known journeyman from Walsall. Jr. has fought, I think, Brad Foster, and Chris Bourke. He's always come up short, but he manages to go the distance. So this is a good next step up for Dennis McCann. Ryan Garner's on there as well. Pierce O'Leary, good Irish prospect. Interesting to see how he develops. Carol Itoma, he's a big punching guy with about 4 different nationalities. The aforementioned Sonny Liston Ali is on the card as well, alongside Khalid Ali, Umar Khan, and of course Lennox Clark against Mark Heffron. Now, Mark Heffron, we saw him get outboxed by Liam Williams. He's a bit of a puncher, but if you are able to move a little bit and show good footwork and a bit of hand speed, you'll give him trouble. Lennox Clark is more of a come forward kind of guy from what I remember. Got a shock win over Willie Hutchinson in his last fight to win these titles. He's a guy who's always done things the hard way, so I'll be pitching for him against Heffron. Lost a split decision to Lerone Richards, which is a decision that's growing with age because Richards has turned into a really nice fighter. Had a good fight with Jermaine Smile as well. This is a good card from Frank, actually. Pat on the back. I'll be watching it next week. I'll be enjoying it.
And that is on BT Sports for the folks in the UK, is it?
Absolutely, yes.
All right, well, there you go. A fun domestic card from BT Sports Saturday at the Copper Box. Then we're going to move on over. We got a card from Los Angeles with Ryan Garcia taking on Javier Fortuna. Alexis Rocha versus TBA, the ever-present TBA. And also, Steve, I know you know a little bit about at least one of these fighters. Got a 130-pound scrap, an eliminator between Lamont Roach and Angel Rodriguez. Roach is a decent enough fighter. He's just almost there, right? Almost there. Like Ricky Graville giving us 449, like he's almost there. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ricky.
he's almost there. Yeah, Ricky can't get into America, but he can get into the super chats all right with that 449. Shout out to him.
I'm surprised he can get into the supermarket, to be fair.
Well, I don't know if he can. He's sober anyway. Good old Ricky. Shout out to him. Lamont Roach, yeah, very quickly on him, Matty. Fought Jamel Herring. Fought within himself, I thought. He really hurt Herring at some point in that fight, but just didn't do enough to get it over the line. In his last fight, he had a good win over Rene Alvarado. I don't remember the fight. I'm sure I must have seen it. Alvarado is better than his record suggests. He's got a win over Jonathan Oquendo, who now calls himself Jonathan Oquendo Arnaldi. So maybe the change in name will mean a change in fortunes. But his opponent...
He must have got hitched.
He must have got hitched, exactly. He's added the name on the end. Why the hell not? You can do anything now. It's 2022. Yeah, good win over Alvarado. He's skillful, Roach. He needs to put the foot down against this Angel Rodriguez, who I can tell you nothing about, Matty. This isn't on BoxRec for some reason. Is Oscar beefing with BoxRec? I know Andy mentioned that in the past, but it's a decent enough card. Roach is good fun to watch, but he hasn't got an opponent, so it doesn't really reek of great professionalism on that undercard.
Nah, it's a little bit of a so-so affair. Rob, much like the main event, having a hard time getting up for Ryan Garcia versus Javier Fortuna, but it's a Saturday night. I don't have a life. I guess I'll watch. Rob, thoughts on this fight?
On the Garcia fight, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I am Fortuna, a good tune-up, as you would say, Maddie. For Garcia, it's nothing fucking spectacular, is it? The Ryan Garcia hype train, we have to get back on it. Like, he has to go and do it in the ring. What is it, 2 years since is he out 2 years now?
No, he fought Tago,
Something
didn't
like
he, Rob?
that.
Yeah, he fought Tago a month and a half ago.
Well, that was very, that was forgettable, wasn't it? Like, so he's, yeah, I don't know. He keeps talking about Gervonta Davis again. I think that's a bit kind of public relations on his behalf. Like, he's talking about, he's going to Gervonta is next in this year, but I've heard that for the last 2 years. Like, so him and Goosen didn't see anything particularly different the last time out. Like, he still hangs his jaw out there, so that's going to make him exciting. Like, I was all on board the Ryan Garcia hype train. Like, after the Campbell win, I thought maybe he's able to kind of back up the talk, which would be great. And I said, like, we need big superstars for the sport. Like, we need global superstars, like not like fucking Jake Paul leading the way for boxers. We need fellas that can actually fight. So I was hoping that Ryan Garcia was one of those, but it remains to be seen. Like, he hasn't had a decent fight. And whatever you say about Tank had knocked Pedraz out to become world champion very early in his kind of introduction to the TV fights. And Garcia's been fighting on TV for the last 4 years, and he fucking done fuck all apart from renegotiate his contract with Golden Boy and go missing. And sandwiched in there's a couple of highlight knockouts where he's looked really good, but we have to see him fight someone. So till he fights a champion, I'm not really that interested in Garcia, to be honest with you. I think he'd probably get a fucking spectacular knockout next week, but we're not learning anything new. Like, so just have to wait and see.
Steve, what are you thinking on this one? Fortuna, I mean, he's fought a good number of fighters, seems to come up short more often than not. I guess if you're working your way back up towards the top tier, it seems a decent step after to go. As much as with his ego, he should be fighting more.
Yeah, I was thinking about Fortuna earlier, actually, in anticipation of this, and then I realised halfway through I was getting him mixed up with Jezreel Corrales, so that's the kind of analysis that I'm bringing to the table, but it just feels like a fight that should have already taken place. It's as if Garcia should be a year and a couple of fights further on than Fortuna now, because they were talking about this way back in March, April 2021. That's when it first was tentatively agreed, and I thought it was a nice stylistic warm-up for an eventual fight with Tank towards the end of the year, the beginning of this year. And then Garcia pulled out. He was citing mental health issues, which was a little bit vague. We wish him well. See how he recovers. If he gets off social media every second of the day, that would be no doubt benefit to his mental health. But Fortuna, he's probably too small and jaded to pose any significant problems at this stage of his career, but a stoppage would be a decent statement. That would make up for lost time if Garcia could get him out of there. If he labours to a points win, if he looks stale, then we've got to start asking questions about his direction, I think, and his overall mental attitude and mental health, because it's another fight with Joe Goosen, as Rob mentioned. That'll further cement the relationship. A bit of denim in the corner, not a fan of that. I'm not a Garcia hater. It's more frustration with him. I think if he's fit and he's firing, he's exciting. The lightweight division's better off with him in it than without it. He's fast. He can drop the left hook in as well. He's not a bad fighter to watch on the eye. The to-go fight wasn't great. Maybe that's the new direction he's going in, but come on, let's get back in there, knock Fortuna out and move on towards a tank fight and get this lightweight division bubbling.
Yeah, he's got the talent, right? But he is going in against a guy who's fought close with some decent fighters. Only losses. Had to kind of go back and remember, right? Fortuna was stopped by Jason Sosa in a good fight in 2016. Went to the 11th round. That was a good close affair. Split decision loss to Robert Easter. And that included a point deduction.
Yes, do you remember that fight? Yeah.
Yep. And it says here he missed weight. I forget that he had missed weight on that one. There was a no decision against Adrian Granados, and I can't remember this one for the life of me. When it says Fortuna accidentally injured when he fell out of the ring. I can't remember that. For some reason, I feel like that should stick out. I remember.
Is he all right?
Yeah, I remember Kermit Citron falling out of the ring. I remember Bernard Hopkins falling out of the ring. I don't remember Javier Fortuna falling out of the ring against Adrian Granados.
Remember your man from last week falling in the river?
There you go.
What, like, by the way, what if you fucking get knocked out when you fall in the river? Like, you could die, couldn't you? It's high risk, that fucking scenario.
Have got a wee speedboat going about, Rob, trying to pick him up with a net.
I had a joke, I'll leave it.
Feel like they should at least put some ankle floats on you so that they can fucking pull you up and you don't go to the bottom. Yeah, and then Fortuna
also, like Swamp Thing. I don't know. I'm not happy with it.
Swimming with the fishes in boxing. It could happen sooner than you think.
And then Fortuna had and then he lost to Jojo Diaz last year.
Oh, yes. Was that when Garcia was supposed to be, that they were supposed to be fighting Fortuna for the first time? And then Diaz jumped in Garcia's place. Is that right?
You might be right.
Yeah, I think so.
You might be right.
So. He ended up with a bad cut, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so, yep, it says Diaz cut left eye from accidental headbutt round 3. So, yeah, just going off this, sometimes you need good old box wreck to jog your memory. As Steve said multiple times during that, oh, yeah. I've scrolled through this, and I'm having an...
First time I've said, oh, yeah, in many's a year.
Yeah, I'm having a similar internal monologue as I scroll here. So I'll tell you what, it is a good fight for Garcia coming back up. I think... I don't know if I'd say if it's quite the level of the Campbell fight or not. Kind of tough to judge a little bit, I guess, in retrospect. So fair enough, fair enough fight. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people are getting cut from accidental headbutts and Fortuna fights as I go through here. Let's see here. Lots of crazy shit going on here. There could be some fun shit here going on.
The Campbell fight felt like it was momentum. He'd knocked out Juno. He'd knocked out that other fella. Was it Fonseca? He was building momentum, and Campbell was that next step up right at the beginning of the year. And he got knocked down. It was exciting. The crowd were loving it. Then he knocked Campbell out with the body shot, and then it was like, oh, yeah, bang, nothing for over a year. It was the loss of momentum. If he'd have fought Fortuna straight after that, like 4 or 5 months later, I think the momentum would have been buzzing. It would have been perfect.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I'll tell you what, just be wary because God, there's a lot of headbutts on this record. Looking back,
I would say, I'm not saying good, but good. Let's see him cut, see how he responds to fucking a bit of, he showed a bit of balls at least in the Campbell fight, and that's why I was all on board with him. So let's see fucking him overcome a bit of adversity. It could be a good fight,
Yeah, listen to some Pantera in the locker room. Don't be listening to The Cure, pussy boy. Anyhow,
you don't want to fucking have the ring walker to love cats.
Tech Cuisine there, Matty says people still discussing Garcia like he's a real contender. We're halfway through 2022 and he went the distance with the bum. Were you not listening to what we were saying? We're just saying he's completely lost all of his momentum. That's what we've just been discussing.
Yeah, and I honestly think I kind of feel bad about slagging off Fortuna as an opponent because looking back, I'm like, yeah, this is a decent guy. He's only really lost to the upper echelon, so it's a good fight for Garcia. Let's see if he can get through it without getting a cut over his eye from a headbutt.
Yeah, he's all tattooed up now, Matty. He's got the tats all over his bod.
Does he? Well,
Yeah.
That man, I tell you what, someone that doesn't believe that the body is a temple and thou shalt not defile it. What are you doing, you crazy bastard? Yeah. Every tattoo I ever thought of in my life, if I would have got it, I think I would regret it right now as I sit nearing 40. And so just remember that, kids. What's cool to you when you're 20 might seem absolutely stupid 20 years later.
I agree.
Yeah. Let's see here. Now, moving over the first in our predictions. Rob, you are only 1 point behind Steve, so we're going to send it to him first. Friday, a 140-pound scrap between two undefeated fighters, Arnold Barboza Jr. and Danilito Zarrillo. Steve, interesting fight. I go through their records. I remember some of those fights. Both have a good quality of opposition. Barboza's been moving a little bit slower, but he does have more rounds under his belt. Man, tough fight to pick this weekend. Tough fight.
Yeah, Barboza has been moved slower than a tranquilized snail, I think. He turned pro in 2013. He's 30 years of age now, and some 9 years later, he's never really had that step up. I mean, he's never stepped up to the next level. Now, there was talk he was going to be the opponent for Teofimo Lopez earlier this year. That never materialized because Lopez needed hand surgery. That would have been perfect for him. At least they've got him something else of reasonable ability now. This Danilito Zorrilla. No idea about him. Calls himself El Zorro. That's a tick in my book. 28 years of age. He's beaten the likes of Pablo Cesar Cano. I think he fought Paulie Malignaggi years ago. Gamaliel Diaz is on the record as well 3 years ago. He was a decent featherweight contender as well at one point. But this is all about Barboza Jr. He's got to get the win. He's got to look impressive. He's 26-0 now. He's 30, as I mentioned. Look at his recent opponents. Mike Alvarado, 2019. Alvarado was shot to shit. That was when I thought they were going to step Barboza up then. But they didn't. They put him in against Ricky Sismundo, Filipino, decent fighter, gets knocked out by the better opponents. Then they put him in against William Silva, tall Brazilian. Lopez smashed the shit out of him. He then went the distance with Tony Hands of Stone Luis, who Gabe once insulted on this very podcast. Then he got a win over Alex Saucedo, fun fighter, only lost to Maurice Hooker, had a great fight with Lenny Zapavinia back in the day. And then Antonio Moran, seemed like they just took him back a level again. Moran got banged out by Haney. Barboza went the distance and lost a couple of rounds to him as well. What are they doing with him? Why have they held him back? I don't understand. They can't put him in against Lopez, so put him in against Zarrillo. Suppose you're looking for a prediction from me. Based on the fact I don't know who Zarrillo is, it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to go for Barboza on points, play it safe. I think Zarrillo's record maybe flatters him a little bit. I don't see too many names that make him out to be a roadman killer. So I'll say Barboza, nice and safe on points. 10 rounds again. Why they're not stepping up to 12? Something about Barboza, Matty, that I'm just not sure about, but I think he'll win this.
All right, Rob, 1 point behind. Will you make this the final week when Steve has to predict first?
Oh, whatever, man. Who cares?
I'm trying to make it seem dramatic and interesting.
Oh, yeah, sorry. We'll do a drum roll or
dun,
something.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, do a Michael Winslow style beatbox drum roll.
You can do background sounds now, Rob, apparently, in StreamYard. It told me when I logged in, so we could introduce a drum roll in future.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and an air horn. We need one of them as well.
No, they got some great stuff going on here, Rob. I mean, it's good times. Check this out. I thought this was great. They call this feeding the ducks. Yeah? Can you lay some rhyme over that?
Oh, yeah.
Sitting at the pond, feeding the ducks, talking about boxing, not giving any fucks.
You sound like that fucking Louis Theroux. My money don't jiggle jiggle. It falls.
Feeding the ducks, man. Into space, Matty. That's one for you there. What the fuck?
I don't know.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah.
See you in your daft podcast, mates.
See what happens when you leave for a week, Andy? You see?
He'd never tolerate this.
Steve, remember you said about feeding the ducks into space? Remember, do any of the listeners recall during the pandemic? And I was wondering, did this actually happen, or did it only happen in my head up until a few nights ago when it happened again? But does anyone remember when I saw the craft in the field?
Yeah,
The kind of triangular job with the fucking. It was kind of expelling kind of pulsating lights, and it was moving in all kinds of crazy directions, and it was happening live on the pod. I was like, hold on here, lads, I think there's a fucking flying saucer here in the pod, right? So the other night I see it in the exact same spot, and the other time it fucking kind of followed me around. So I was saying to the neighbor, like, I thought it was a drone first. Like, I was like, my mind's playing tricks on me. I was like, oh, your kid's fighting shit out of me with that drone, man. The other night it kept following me around, and he goes, we don't have a drone. So I seen it again the other night. I said, fuck this family for to go down a UFO rabbit hole on the pod, but fucking hell, strange things happening in the upside down.
They are crop circles, man.
It's fucking. I wasn't sticking around to find out anyway. Fuck that. I know how these movies end. Get back inside.
So what are you thinking on Barboza versus Zorrillo there, Rob?
Yeah, Rob, you ain't getting away with it that easily.
I'm more interested in what the fuck that thing was in the sky than the result of this fight. I think Barboza by stoppage.
I think it was Megan the Stallion's ass.
Well, listen, that's worth a rewatch anyway. It's worth looking further into. Yeah, I'm going to think. I think Barboza's going to stop him in a bit of a showpiece job.
Really? All right. The man with I think he's a little about 40% KO ratio.
Well, you're the one wanting to make it dramatic, asshole. I'm fucking going for the gusto here.
Dun dun dun.
Fucking Barboza knockout. Right?
All right. Well, you know what? Let's make it really interesting. I'm going to go with Zorrillo by knockout.
Ooh.
Yeah,
What about the over-under, Matty? And you get extra points if you get the over-under, seeing as you're behind?
No, we don't have to do that. We don't have to stack it. Because I think both of these fights are going to happen this week. We sometimes we need a backup. I don't think we need it this week. I bet you this is one. It's 10 rounds. I bet you it's probably going to be 7.5 or 8.5 with the books. That'd be my guess.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a distance fight to me in a way, but you know what? Like you're saying, there's something about Barboza. Why are they waiting so long? Why the slow steps up in competition? They seem to be, Zorrillo hasn't fought a murderer's row, but they're willing to throw him in. So I'm going to lean that way, and I'm going to say that he can beat the smack out of the guy down the stretch, get revenge for my buddy Alvarado.
Well, I was going to say maybe Barboza might go the same route as Gabe Flores, and this guy might come in swinging like Lopez did and catch him. But MB, who's always got his finger on the pulse, Matty, says Zorrillo got a quit in him, I reckon. I saw him milk a DQ against that Madiev. Inside.
He got hit in the back of the head. I don't know about that. I'm trying to remember back to that, and I thought he actually got hit pretty clean to the back of the head. So, I don't know.
Was that Showbox card, no?
2 years ago, was it?
Sergei Baharchuk, yeah, against Brandon Adams, USA NBC Sports Network. I don't think I saw that one. I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's a while back. Yeah. Well, we will see. We will see on this one. The thing is, I don't think that Barboza has the kind of pop that would make a guy want to quit, though, either. I haven't seen that from him. Alvarado was shot when he fought him. I mean, absolutely shot. So, yeah. Because as I discussed, we gave Oz some favors because he had to miss so much for cricket, but we'll work one with Andy. Like I said to you guys at one point, you can miss up to 3 weeks, and I'll give you 3 points for that week. So we'll throw Andy in there with 3 guaranteed, since he doesn't get any picks in this week. But moving on, this is going to be Wednesday evening where it is, Wednesday afternoon for you guys, Wednesday morning over here. A rematch. Donnie Nietes against Kazuto Ioka. Jesus Christ. Nietes, one of the most underrated fighters of the last 15 years. No doubt about it. Ioka, a career of fighting exceptional fighters the whole way through. Hoping to get revenge on Nietes. who is now 40 years old. In the first fight, I thought that Ioka gave up the little bit of advantage that he had in height and reach, choosing instead to lean down and fight into places that Nietes could catch him, and he still had great footwork at the time. But this is an older fighter; hasn't been looking as good lately. I'm leaning towards the chance that that Ioka might get revenge on this one. But Steve, I know that you are fascinated with little foreign men. Give me your thoughts on this one.
Absolutely. Little foreign men with no tops on as well, sweating profusely. That's right up my alley.
Little foreign objects. Forget about the fucking
unidentified foreign fighters.
Oops.
Yeah, little off, man. And Nietes might as well be an unidentified foreign fighter to me, Matty, as I confessed to you offline, not offline, earlier on before we started the pod. Nietes' career has just come and gone for me. I cannot remember any of his fights. I know he was on that Superfly card. The first one was good. The next two weren't as good. He popped up on that. He's got 6 draws on his record. Andy would be the man for this. He knows all about these kind of guys. Nietes is 40 as well, so I am going for Ioka on this. I like Ioka's career resurgence. I know a bit more about him. I saw his fight with Tanaka. Tanaka was being built up as the next Inoue, big, massive puncher. Turns out on the night, I think it was New Year's Eve show, we watched that one. He couldn't get out the way of a left hook. Ioka, very skilled, very compact. He has an interesting private life. I think he knocked up the nanny of the child. Apologies, Mr. Ioka, if I'm misrepresenting you there, but I think he's a bit of a character away from the ring, so to speak. But
Schwarzenegger did the same thing. That's pretty fucking great.
There you go. He's in good company, his old Kazuto.
John Matrix. That's my name.
Ja, I knocked out the maid, and I'm going to go to the nanny next. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to fix the ladies. Because we can't what happened in Sacramento, what happened in New Orleans. And I am the man who can do this when it comes to
Is he from Cork?
I can pump them up.
Great Mike Perez impression there.
Like Spike O'Sullivan. But
and I guarantee you, if I try to specifically talk like an Irishman, I'm going to probably sound like a fucking Iraqi or something.
Give me that Hoberman doll.
Ioka. I'm going for Ioka stoppage. I think he's going to get to Nietes. I think 40-year-old Nietes has had his time now. It's come and gone. Time to move to the youngsters like 33-year-old Ioka. And a quick shout out on the undercard, actually. Daigo Higa's returning. His career took a fair downturn. He was being billed as a legit destroyer. Flunked the weight against Rosales. Andy was high on him as well, I think. And I definitely was. Rosales knocked him out. Higa, don't know where he's going to go. As for the winner, let's see them fight Chocolatito or Estrada or something like that. Ioka's due that big fight. He's fought in America in the past. I think he's going to catch Nietes at the right time. Oh, yeah, Ioka smokes weed. Yeah, tattoos. That was another thing. He has tattoos, which are offensive in the deferential Japanese culture. A bit like the Kamedas. They were sort of out of their time. They were quite brash and abrasive and didn't fit in with Japanese culture. So I think Ioka's going to get it.
The tattoos he has, of course, are in no way related to the terror attacks in Manchester United of Ariana Grande. We'll never forget.
I'm far more offended by Japan's constant state of quantitative easing. I think they need to get their priorities straight.
Absolutely.
Rob, your thoughts on this fight? Steve going Ioka stoppage. Will Nietes repeat his split decision victory from 2018?
No, I think Ioka has been training like a commando, and on the night he's going to fight like a predator and terminate. Nietes at 40, I think he's going to get the stoppage as well. And then he'll be back. Hasta la vista, baby.
You guys are killing me here because I thought Ioka stoppage was going to be the bold pick, and I might be able to stand alone on this one.
Oh, is that what you're going for as well?
I just think those 40 years old, man, I love Nietes. I think he's, like I said, I think he is an underrated fighter. And it's so tough in an era when your compatriots are Manny Pacquiao and Nonito Donaire. Because here you have this 4-division champion, 1 loss on his record, a handful of draws. Some could have gone his way, some the other way. But he has fought exceptional competition throughout his career. He's Superfly, not so much. 112 and below. He's been a fantastic fighter. The Philippines have 3 first ballot Hall of Famers in the same generation, all within 3-4 years of each other. I love Donnie Nietes. Fantastic fighter.
It's just because they're tiny, isn't it? Like, so you can't really give him any credit. Like, he could be a 4-weight world champion, but if I can just knee in the face, like, you know what I mean?
Rob just thinks of it like going around and kicking the shit out of the lollipop kids. Like,
they
you
are
just
just
can't.
4 belts, so just bam, knee in the face, fuck off.
It's because they're moving up weights like by 3/4 of a pound.
It's this. I'm glad that I can basically guess Rob's answer on who would you rather fight between one horse-sized duck and 100 duck-sized horses. Rob is going with the duck-sized horses because he thinks that size matters and he can just take out the little bastards. Am I wrong, Rob?
What is it? A duck-sized horse?
One horse-sized duck. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I don't know. Tough one. See, if it's a duck, like, what can it really do? You know what I mean?
Ducks are
fly,
vicious bitches, dude.
Go fly, whack, whack. You know what I mean? Just get inside. You just have to get inside early, I think. I'm not sure.
Who would you rather fight between 100
ducking 'em.
duck-sized horses and 3 drunken Irish broads?
Well, I fucking. Oh, listen, I'm not going there now.
I hate these questions, man. There's a football podcast to listen to, and at the end they always do all this, and they go, "Oh, do you keep your ketchup in the fridge or in the cupboard?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck off and die, would you, man?"
I pee with the seat down. That's my story. So I'll tell you what, guys. I'm going Ioka stoppage on this one, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the line at 7.
Here we go with the line. Why did I not just fucking pick me?
At 7.5 rounds on this one. Steve, over, under, 7.5.
Over, I think it'd be 11, 12, 10 late on, I think.
Okay. Where are you going, Rob?
I'm going under then. I'm going man down under.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I am going to go with the over along with Steve there. I almost typed bold under Rob's instead of under. I don't know why.
Rob's been quite bold tonight, so that's appropriate.
I tell you. So that's a good one, and it's a shame that Andy's not here, guys. Because if there was a week that Andy would really be able to dig into a fight,
just text him, man.
Can we not get him in the group or something to just chuck it in?
Just text him and get his answer. Give it to you. Like, you don't have to fucking make up the answers for him. You don't want to win the league that badly. Fuck's sake.
I try to have standards. I try to have some standards.
No, that's where you're going wrong.
Yeah.
It's like I tell you, okay, but it's
standards on the box of Asylum. Well, fucking be a first.
I'm so excited about this fight, though. I don't know if there's going to be U.S. viewing options over here, or if we'll have to catch it on later on the day, sneaking it from someone who posted on YouTube. But this is going to be a good fight. I recommend both of you guys, as well as any of the listeners who have not seen their initial encounter, to check it out. High quality scrap. It's a shame that Nietes took so much time after that fight. Some of it COVID induced. What are you going to do? But they really, this is a fantastic little guy fight this Wednesday from Tokyo. Looking forward to it. But we've gone 2.5 hours. Oh my God, Steve, value of the week.
Thank you very much, Matty. Value of the week for 482. Just the three of us, the unholy trinity this week. Matty's here along with Rob.
Yeah.
And me, Steve. She might or might not feature. You never know. Old Ebbs, let's find something to play us in with. We haven't watched this one in a while. Our old friend Floyd, where's he been hiding?
Hi, I'm Floyd Mayweather. Call Love Windows right now. 0800-6444-644.
Love Windows presents triple glazed windows, only $299 each. Any size, fully fitted, and a 15 years guarantee.
Call Love Windows right now at 0800-6444-644. Remember, call right now.
You know what's bullshit, Steve?
What?
They totally ripped off that idea from this pornography that I really love. I mean, it's only 1 letters off. It's called Triple Glazed Widows. And it's bullshit.
A 15 years guarantee, no less. There's no proofreading going on anyway.
Oh, God. TMT all day. I see he put out an Instagram video. He's like, they say Floyd don't work. Well, here I am, take it out the trash. And then he just wheels his bin out in the video. That's the video. I'm like, who says Floyd doesn't work? Who are these people that are saying that?
How has it come to this for Floyd, man?
I don't know, man. Fucking take it out
Where's
the trash.
Ashley Finn for him? Does he not put the bins out to TMT? Is that not his job? Or J. Leon Love? What's he doing these days?
Mikey Bay hiding in the bin, just popping up his head, trying to write up his fucking font for his new promotional company, Fighting in Zaire, or wherever the fuck he is.
Oh, good old Floyd. Advertising windows and who knows what else.
Got to make money to pay Logan Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Not the saddest thing we've seen all week, though. Blonde Bomber. Always love a catch-up with the Gad. Fake ass, show us the tattoos. I'm sure no one will mind. There he is.
Look directly at his eyeliner. Look at it.
Good to see her dressing so modest.
You're going to say she's in some shape, isn't she? Ebbs as well. Oh, man. The Phoenix. You can't blame him, Rob, can you? Come on now. We're all men here.
I don't know. Like, Baumgartner now would be over there to fucking tell us about the tattoos, all right? You know what I mean? Bridges.
Careful, Steve. You're going to end up in the Ebony Appreciation Group.
How do you know I'm not already?
I'm going to say, like, fucking, what's it called? It's Dave Chappelle said when he was talking about Michael Jackson. He was like, I would have wanted to meet him when I was a kid, but now, I don't know. I wouldn't break an appointment. You know that way? I wouldn't break an appointment to go meet the Ebbs now. But I have some free time, maybe.
Well, it might. The excitement of Ebbs might be wearing off, Rob, because I had another one in saying that the Coventry show was cancelled, assuming lack of interest. So it looks like the Ebbs star is starting to fade a little bit.
You need to tell me, Steve, that grown men don't want to pay £200 a ticket or whatever it is to get just a photo and a dinner with Ebony Bridges. Well, what's the word coming to? You fucking don't know how good you have it. Cost of living crisis, me arse. Get out and get into those dinners with the fucking Ebony. What's he called? The blonde bomber. Get the fucking blonde bomber in your life.
Maybe that's who Dereck Chisora wanted Eddie to get for him next. Maybe he meant blonde bomber and he was not bronze.
Yeah, I haven't got many left to be, Eddie.
He's gonna leave one in her.
He might do. Dominic has nominated
Bean. You didn't have to fucking say it. Like, he just says the fucking. You're alluding to that, Maddie.
I'm more than that, like Norm Macdonald face first comedy. You just kind of put it out there and look at people like, yeah, that's the line.
It's a line. Very much like Bean Shalom. Just when I thought my day couldn't get any better, Adam Smith reads out "quote" as though it's a completely normal word. He's plucked from the English dictionary. Shields versus Marshalls coming, chicks with a dig, Matty, and Beans all over it.
I don't know, man. I don't want to talk about Clarissa Shields and how much she annoys me because I've been watching stuff building up to her fight with Savannah Marshall. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to dodge out of this. I don't want anything to do with Clarissa Shields. She is officially my most annoying person going right now.
Well, they are in boxing. That's quite the title.
Well, where's your 2 Olympic gold medals, Maddie?
Don't.
The quote. Johnny Nelson's been nominated as well. You are being ignorant, Johnny Nelson tells interviewer during debate as he maintains Usyk is still an average southpaw.
He's at it, isn't he? Like, what's he on about? He knows at this stage. He just fucking says anything, doesn't he? Like, Jesus Christ.
Loves a bit of clickbait, does Johnny. Just a regular guy, Slack the Planet, regular contributor to Bellew of the Week, says Bellew of the Week for GB News, getting their expert analysis from Delboy. Delboy jumped in this week and said Brexit is going very, very, very good right now. It will get better. Professional boxer Dereck Chisora, he's dropped the C, I've noticed from his name, shares his thoughts on the UK leaving the European Union. Also, Matty turned up with a Boris Johnson mask on at the weigh-in. He's quite the character, is Delboy.
Yeah, I don't agree with his position on economics or that it's going to turn out very well. If you look at current inflations and the fact that's not just printing money, and it has a lot to do with the lack of labor going on and the inability of both your country and mine to meet our productive capacity. But Dereck Chisora, nonetheless, a character.
Thanks, Matty. Bringing the gags through Bellew of the Week.
No, I feel like every once in a while I have to sneak stuff in there that shows that I'm not a raging idiot.
Quantitative easing banter.
Sons of bitches. They just fucking do this. And
It's like, how did he get there from a picture of fucking Dereck Chisora?
Because he had a picture of Boris Johnson on his head.
Listen,
Who was
Brexit's going very
basically
good.
Donald Trump's prison bitch in the same way that Tony Blair was George W. Bush's prison bitch. Am I wrong?
Brexit's going very, 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 very good at the moment.
It's going to get better. So
Yeah.
Oh dear. Everything boxing I found out this week has blocked me, unfortunately. So tears
What?
about that. Better Q has nominated him. He says if your goal is a big fight, it doesn't get any bigger than Ben versus Eubank. Honest question: what's a bigger fight, Eubank Ben or Crawford Ben? Also, he wants to see Chisora versus White 3. Sick man, this everything boxing, Rob.
well, that's what he's going to get. Fucking no doubt about it, because it will not be Deontay Wilder. Don't fucking believe that for a split second. Eddie Hearn is not making fights with Al Heyman or whoever the fuck is in charge of Deontay Wilder, let alone to fight Dereck Chisora. Where? Dereck Chisora is going to go to Vegas, is he? He's going to go to the fuck. Why would Deontay Wilder come to England to fight Chisora on a fucking other network that he doesn't fight on? Give me a fucking break. You're getting White Chisora 3. Strap yourselves in for some table flipping, because that's if you don't put his fucking back out at his age, flipping the fucking tables over. Fuck me, man.
Rob, just because you've forgotten what it's like to have a dream, don't take that away from Del Boy.
I still have hopes and dreams, Matty.
I can only imagine.
Speaking of which, it's fucking 5 years since I'm on the pod officially.
Holy shit!
Is it? Wow.
Yeah, it's over. We've gone past 5 years. Cal Brook and Spence was 5 years ago, wasn't it?
Congratulations.
Well done, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm let me think. Frampton Martinez 2, September 2014. So I'm 8 years on now.
Well, there's a direct correlation between my fucking lack of music output and the fucking timeline to when I joined the pod. So, every cloud.
Was Saturday recording or Sunday recording night, Rob?
Well, one of them was but you can't have everything. You can't have your cake and eat it. You know what I mean? You have to fucking have a life as well. Get a life.
Dude, it's
And
a
Matty,
shame
of
that you have
course.
to choose between the pugilist and dope beats. No one should have to make such a decision.
No.
It's cruel world. What can you do?
Telling you.
Exactly. As the original host, Matty, you're going back to what, 2011, 2012 territory?
Yeah, where was I? I'm trying to think when I was gone from, and I mean, I've popped in here and there in the middle. I think I was gone 13 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Andy took over from you, didn't he? You were the host of the very first episode, though, in late 11, was it? I think.
Yeah. Alvarado versus Brandon Rios.
They used to laugh at podcasts then, didn't they? Do you remember? Oh, podcasts, fucking wankers, and now they've all got one.
Yeah. We were the trendsetters. I think we before. We might have been before Joe Rogan. Maybe. Yeah, we're pretty kick-ass. I mean, if you ask me, we're pretty kick-ass. But yeah, been around for quite a while.
All go wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the dog pound. ESPN ringside said 38-year-old Dereck Chisora turned in one of the best performances of his career with his split decision win over Kubrat Pulev. And Michael Shusey, big Everton fan, wasn't happy with that. He's nominated it for Bellew of the Week. Tara Mank has nominated this one. Mikey Garcia going in deep on the Conor Ben links. I never heard about the Ben fight. Mikey Garcia told Eamon Khan of Boxing Social.
Eddie not getting back to lads again, even the Nate. You're hard to pin down these days. Probably not listening to the pod this week because you're so hard to get. Even Ed.
Oh,
Chuck Wu nominating himself there.
Free R. Kelly. Chuck Wu's been on that train for a while now, to be fair.
Listen, he's a terrible human, but he was a fantastic singer. So, you know what I mean?
Free R. Kelly from Alien Abduction.
Exactly.
It sounds to me like Rob's had some really empowering moments in his room as a younger lad, just listening to, I believe I can fly.
No, I think it was
tears streaming down his face, like, I can do it. I can do it. I can bang a chick at the Wu-Tang show.
No, it was more listening to a fucking bit of bumper grind and there's tears coming out of someone else's face.
Oh, that's fucking gold. That's fucking gold.
Chuck Cruz says Rolf Harris didn't even get 10 years. Oh, for fuck's sake.
Chuck was in the running this week, whether he likes it or not.
Chuck Cruz off his head, man. Sam Boxing is nominated Iron Chin Boxing. Is it just me, or Chisora has really added some levels to his defensive game? He looks like Tyson Fury against Tom Schwartz in there. Hashtag Chisora Pulev 2. So that's from Iron Chin
Tom
Boxing.
Schwartz is fighting this week.
Is he?
Yeah, he hasn't lost since he fought Tyson Fury, and he hasn't fought anyone worth a fuck, but he hasn't lost.
All right, back on the train. James Becker says, I found a winner. This is my portrait, says Joshua HB. My portrait drawing of you, Anthony Joshua, indeed recently, but we'd be glad if you will see and love at Anthony Joshua. I'll be honest, Rob, I've seen worse.
It's not bad. It's kind of a 1940s version of Anthony Joshua, isn't it? He's in a detective novel or something, but close.
Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, what's going on with the eyes there?
Whatever he's looking at, he looks at the same way I look at a really good club sandwich.
It's the Sugar Ray Robinson moustache as well for some reason.
Good old AJ.
Hold on, go back to that.
Yeah, sorry, there we go.
Oh, it's just a black man with a Hitler stash.
Joshua HB bringing the drawings. Mikey Thompson, Mikey T, he's in the chat tonight. Guitar Mikey playing the tunes. Worldwide signings got nominated. I have 5 of these IBF mini belts, which Ebony Bridges will be signing on the 30th of July here in Rom Shopping Hall, supplied with photo proof and COA. £250 plus £10 postage and packing. They are available, Rob, to order by contacting me or through the website. Not me, him.
Well, put your fucking get your orders in. You know the Boxing Asylum t-shirts are in hot demand, but if you're going to be throwing it around, throw it around Ebony's direction. I don't know how people are managing to get their hands on such fucking exclusive merchandise. I mean, she's not exactly forthcoming with all this, is she? She's very hard to pin down to a celebrity dinner or a paid opportunity for a photo or fucking signed IBF mini belts. Who's buying them? Like 250 quid. Who's fucking buying them? Get into Patreon, whoever you are. Get in there now. Oh, fucking hell.
In the Patreon, yeah. Get on the t-shirts, as Rob says. Danny Young's sorting us out some Boxing Asylum t-shirts. If anybody wants one, we'll have the links up very shortly. Also, Danny has opened up an Instagram account for us, so it's all happening behind the scenes. Big moves here as well in the face-off. Billy Boxing has nominated Fabio Wardley for the weigh-in and face-off, where the opponent wasn't even there for there to be a face-off. He could have faced off with Diamante, Matty in the corner there, I suppose, if Chris Healy didn't turn up.
Yeah, you just don't want Diamante to re-injure his neck.
Exactly. He's sellotaped together, that poor fella.
Yeah, he's
only after swimming over from the container fight there with his Panama hat on him.
Yeah. One stiff breeze away, Steve. One stiff breeze.
He is indeed. Holt has nominated this. Anthony Joshua. There is other life in the universe, but it could be a little worm living in some water. Some profound thoughts.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know why this is in there. That's probably one of the smartest things he's ever said.
I was only thinking, am I on fucking AJ's wavelength here now? Because I've been thinking these things myself, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. Let's go deeper. Anthony Joshua has expressed his belief that there is other life in the universe, but indicated that this might be something different than what people call aliens. The heavyweight star stated that an alien could just be a worm living in the water on another planet. What we call aliens could be extraterrestrial life, normal life, he told The Sun. It could be a little worm living in some water on another planet. I find it crazy we're floating in the middle of the universe right now. I could go on for hours. I do believe there is other life in the universe. There you go, AJ, man.
Well, he's on to something because it keeps fucking flying over my head. So fucking when he finds out about it, tell him to let me know.
Yeah, I'm with you. None of this shit makes any sense, AJ. I'm with you 100%.
Absolutely. When it's Carl Froch, they laugh, but AJ's bringing the philosophy on a Sunday evening.
Carl Froch on the flat out is absolute gold, by the way. Fucking unbelievable. What's he on about?
Carl Froch believes there's a flat earth?
Yeah.
No, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh, yeah, you hear him go into detail about horizons and fucking lights on the end of the street. And all that.
He makes some good points, to be fair, Rob.
Yeah, but like I said all along, so fucking what? Like, if it's flat, so I can just get on with it. Like, what difference does it make to you? Like, you can't fucking do nothing with that. Like, we're going to walk off the fucking edge. So fucking what? Like,
you think you would have learned more about how a globe works with his travel issues with Kessler?
Ryanair.
Or Gravity when George Groves put into the cameras. Anyway, poor old Froch. We're not going on him tonight. Matty, any nominations for you? Episode 482.
You know, I don't think I do have anything this week, unfortunately, Steve. I should have paid more attention at the commentary and listened to see if anybody said anything really dumb. Well, Tony Bellew's scorecard was pretty shitty in the
Oh yeah,
Chisora fight.
and
Let's go with
David
that.
Hay as well. Yeah,
They can. Yeah, both of them can kiss my ass
Yeah.
for their scorecards. Yeah, we'll nominate them.
Bellew, definitely Bellew, Rob. I'm throwing him in as well.
And Chuck Wu for defending pedos in the chat.
Yeah. Well, chuck you every week for existing. I'm definitely throwing Bellew in as well, Rob, as we were talking at the top of the show. The guy who's shouting instructions for Del Boy for 12 rounds while also being the official scorecard analyst on the show.
I know. Well, fucking typical Bellew, like, isn't it? Like, he's not going to fucking miss an opportunity to fucking get himself in the limelight, contrary to popular belief. So yeah, Bellew deserves one. A worthy fucking winner this week with a daft podcast.
Oh, Bellew. Right, we'll go through them then, and everyone can, excuse me, nominate their nominations, for want of a better expression. We've got the Blonde Bomber and the Gad. We've got Bean as well going in with Groat. We've got Johnny Nelson saying that Usyk is an average southpaw. We've got Brexit's going very, very, very good right now, says Dereck Chisora. Everything Boxing for generally existing. ESPN Ringside for their analysis of the fight. I never heard about the Ben fight, says Mikey Garcia. Iron Chin Boxing for defending Chisora's defense. We've got the Anthony Joshua, the ghost of Robert Johnson, as Big A says there in the chat. We've got worldwide signings with the IBF belts. We've got Fabio Wardley having a face-off against an imaginary opponent. And we've got life in the universe, but it could be a little worm living in some water, according to the great philosopher that is Anthony Joshua. Who are you going for this week, Matty?
I'm going to go with Dereck Chisora, because as somebody who talks with exceptional economists on the regular, I just got to laugh at his economic knowledge on all the markers on how Brexit is going. So, Dereck, you get the W in the ring, but you get the L as far as knowledge goes this week, buddy.
I don't think his economics are that bad. The cunt is fucking dragging paydays out of fucking his own.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
He's treating it like it exists in a vacuum, Rob, and that's not how economics works.
A lot of people in the chat are nominating Chukwu. Well, don't forget that's the fake Chukwu, so just remember that. That's the fake Chukwu.
That's your fucking hope. Jesus Christ.
I know, yeah, I hope so. Rob, I'm torn between AJ and his life on other planets or Tony Bellew's scorecard. Help me out, Rob. Who are you going for?
I kind of like the Gad and Ebony again. I think they look like they could do a really good Dempsey and Meg piece reboot together. I think that'll be good. Like some kind of continuation of the Gad and Ebony Bridges love story will be good. Like, but Eddie was salty this week as well, wasn't he? Saying Sky we're going to make a loss on the whole fucking Saudi situation. Evening Ed. And who was the other one you said there?
Bellew's scorecard.
Yeah, well, Bellew, like he's fucking loves Del Boy, doesn't he? Like he's always at it. He was at it on Sky as well, wasn't he? Didn't he get reprimanded or something for shouting at the
More than Chuck Wu loves R. Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Bellew, like with a that podcast can have it. Fucking dogs everywhere tonight, isn't there? Fuck me, man.
Bob's getting chased by the dogs. There we are then. Congratulations, Tony. You are the Bellew of the week. Your own award you have won for episode 482. Congratulations to you. Yes, I'll just clear up a few things before I hand back to Matty. The old voice is failing me, man. I think I'm getting too old for the podcasting game. If you want to join us over on patreon.com/Boxing Asylum, feel free to do so. Brendan Hack joined us this week. He's now in the Nutters group. Shout out to our super chatters, Declan Graffin and Ricky Graville as well. And the Nutters call-in show is going most Saturday evenings. And yeah, Danny Young's doing the t-shirts. They're coming soon as well. Hit like, subscribe, and show YouTube that you love us. Back to you, Matty. Thank you.
And thank you, Steve, and thank you to everyone in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't do a rundown when it's just me and Steve talking for the beginning. It's a little hard to take notes simultaneously. Need to be a little bit more active in the discussion. But thank you to everyone out there. You know who you are. We thank you every week. We love you guys. You keep us going. We love your interactions. Whoever the heck is posting is Chuck. We'll get some fucking help. That was wrong. We don't need that shit. But anyways, I'd like to thank Steve and Rob for coming on. We'll be here next week. We'll talk about that quote-unquote big minimum weight fight. Big minimum weight fight. That's an oxymoron. Coming from Thailand next week. And we will review the upcoming fights. Remember, check out this Nietes Ioka rematch. If it's anything like their first, it is going to be an excellent scrap. Until then, I am your host, Matt DiGiannato, for the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse. Y'all have a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
Go to and move!
We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking Sri that can fight me.
I fell asleep. You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Grumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7 year ain't. I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.